And that's the irony. It's great that you put it that way. It is collapsing, and if people are awake, or at least understanding that 2020 was really weird, and now everything else after that, they're just like, oh, here we go again. Um, the other people, they don't see it. They just see chaos reigning. They're looking for another somebody for this election cycle save us. They're all looking in the wrong places. And I wrote some lyricals to that because I like thinking musicals or, poetry. And I was searching all around me in all the wrong places. My greatest enemy is why. You're always asking the question why. You're always looking here and there, but you never submit yourself to God. You never submit yourself to Christ, which is ironic because their ascension thing says you have to get rid of your ego to ascend. And what is it with us? We have to get rid of our reliance, our dependence on the things of this earth, this institution. And that's the scariest part, is that people are so tied to that they don't want to get rid of their diapers. It's like, you're now ready for underwear. You've evolved. You now know how to potty train yourself, but they still want to cling to mommy and daddy, or big daddy government, as I like to call it. And it's
Yeah.
kind of sad, both sides. And that's why I call it Stockholm syndrome, because you guys are relying so much on a two-party system that you can't see that, and these are wrong. Or you're like, oh, it's the lesser of two evils. It's like, well, evil's still evil, so why would I still endorse evil?
Brandon, good to see you again. Thanks for making time to hang out with me.
Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely. To that point, our last conversation seems to be doing very well. It's getting views on YouTube. People seem to be enjoying it. What are you hearing on your end?
Oh, I've had several people messaging me. They seem to really appreciate it. I think it was a different change of pace from usual presentation mode. So they kick back, lounge around, have a nice little conversation. I think it's really resonating with some people. It gave a little bit of a positive vibes to everybody.
Yeah. I enjoy watching these types of conversations myself. You get to know people in a different way. So, because I know most of your content is kind of uh, you delivering a message, doing somewhat of a deep dive on your Rumble account, and
Yeah.
Instagram's a little different. Is that what you typically tend to do? Is kind of deep dive on a topic?
Yeah, I usually do a deep dive. I mean, if I could get like a co-host or something like that. I really like the format of the Watchers, or the guys that usually did BuzzFeed Unsolved, where it's kick back, lounge around. You can talk a little bit of conspiracy. I would love that ideally. But I think right now I'm in professor mode, and that's why I'm teasing myself, because that's what it feels like. Is like slide, click, and it seems like a boring thing, but I'm trying to make it fun because it's a tough topic to consume. But if I can break it down and make it enjoyable, and digestible, it makes somebody go like, oh, okay, I really enjoyed that class. I want to go back and see what else I can pick up.
Yeah. Well, and what I notice too with content creators in any kind of niche is as they go on the journey, their like chosen format evolves and changes, and human beings want a variety, and we want to kind of grow with our process. And so I see
Right.
that all the time as well. So that's encouraging that you're kind of looking at maybe doing different types of content in the future.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I also really appreciate theater and acting, or doing some satire. If I could get an ensemble and like do like, a metaphoric skits, something to just make people laugh. That's kind of like the Onion, like I stated before. I would
Mhm.
love to do that. Because I think that's one way really to get an avenue of, what the real world is going through. And when you relay that through humor, sometimes it resonates better. Like we said last time with the strawberry jam, or a little sugar with making medicine go down.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. I think about, The Onion, Babylon Bee, these types of different they
Yep.
really have tapped into something because as we talked about prior, these types of topics and this type of information, it is competing in the marketplace for attention with all of I'm going to say it, all of the silly stuff, the distractions, the
Right.
propaganda, all of the BS. So, we do have to be creative, don't we?
I think so. I think even just to counteract, like you said before, you following the Ryan Reynolds. You kind of have to understand their format and then how you present that. to somebody else. Like I was saying to somebody, like, if you're listening, folks, take a note of this one. You want to be noticed, you go after the head guy. So if you mention, if you go after the person's content or something, like somebody that was big, like a Shapiro or Russell Brand, everybody's going to come after you. Why? Because you're not submitting to the system of I'm submitting to the leader, I'm submitting to the priest, I'm submitting to the politician. Suddenly you're going, why do I have to do it that way? And you want to stand out, you first need to stand up. And when you do that, that makes everybody look at you because it's like, that's not normal. You're not supposed to do that. But it's like, yeah, but statistically speaking, throughout history, every person that became famous or became well known are the people that defied the statistics.
Yeah.
They challenged the system.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting you say that because oftentimes I think about this as this idea of where is content going? Where is collective consciousness going? You know, you kind of want to be on the cutting edge or a trendsetter, so to speak,
Right.
to be there when people get there. And then you've already got your base built and you're like, oh yeah, come on in,
Mhm.
you know, do you think of yourself in that way as far as like being in the headspace or preparing a, I guess, safe haven or a dock for people to come in that are like, holy shit, what is happening? You're like, come on in. Let me give you the breakdown. Have a seat. Have a juice.
Right.
Do you feel like that sometimes?
Well, yeah. I think like I stated last time, like my house, my name breaks down to like a lighthouse, basically, a well-known beacon of
Yes.
light or a hill. And I do see it like that is, come on in, let's warm your feet by the fire. I understand you got a little soaked. Let's take
Yeah.
those mitts off, and give you a little cocoa. And that's kind of what I see our content as, is trying to make you a little bit warm, make it palatable, not to make it depressing or we're mocking the one side or the other side. What I like trying to do in contrast is edify you, and not saying that you can ascend or you're blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to edify you where you don't have to be panicked. You don't have to be scared. All you have to do is start understanding. And I think some of that would tap into the inspiration that was in the verse in Hosea, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. But we tend to just stop there. The verse continues stating that because you rejected knowledge, I will reject you as my priest, which is terrifying because, when the temple veil ripped in two, that means now you can be indwelled. You are now a priest representing, heaven. You're now a celestial ambassador, if I may borrow the term. And I think a lot of people, they don't know how to tap into that, what the Holy Spirit is. They're going through the motions, and a lot of this is echoed off of the Catholic inspiration, is just go through the motions, do the thing, but you never ask why you do it. And I'm going by former
Mm.
Catholics to say a lot of our households, we just let the Bible sit there, but it's never living. And that's what it's supposed to be. The word became flesh. It was a living word. It's supposed to be inspired. And I think inspired, I think that's what I'm trying to do. So if you come in here, I'm going to try to inspire you to showing what your gift is. I don't have your gift. Somebody could be a better singer than me, or you can I don't know, maybe you knit very well, and that's something where you're your niche.
Yeah. Your
That you're
knitting
able,
is your niche.
right. you know but maybe that's something how you can minister to somebody and just be like, oh, what inspires you to like do this artistic aspect of you, and you say, well, I'm inspired by God and I see so much evil in the world. I try to utilize what gift I have for good and pointing to him.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. And I do think many people as the current system is clearly, many people see it now. Many
Mhm.
people haven't abandoned ship yet. They're still hanging on because they don't know
Right.
where else to go. But as that system continues to collapse and the house of cards comes down, there will be people swimming toward, like you say, this metaphorical lighthouse and like, hey,
Yes.
I come to the beacon. That's a really interesting way to put it because I definitely see that being the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does appear, and speaking from my own experience, we've been, kind of seduced and deceived for so long of like, hey, here's all of the things you need. Don't think, don't
Right.
research for yourself, just do what you're told. And now people are like, hey, something sketchy's going on behind the scenes there. Yeah, that people are searching, they are waking up at,
Hmm.
at all different levels. I see it in my own journey. I see it in people that I am very close to. The ones that weren't awake at all are a little more awake. The ones that were a lot awake are a lot more awake. Are you
Right.
finding this?
Right. I think, yeah. I love the way you just phrased that. I think a lot of people are they're trying to seek clarity. They're trying to find their focus and quote unquote purpose. And I think that's an awesome thing in and of itself. I think that's something I was noticing. A lot of people like to praise Catholicism as like, oh, it was a foundation, it was a church founded by Christ. But it's like for a long time, the people themselves couldn't read the scriptures. It was only what the priest said. So you're just going off of whatever the with Latin. They couldn't understand it because
You
only a
just take
priest
my
could.
word for it, right?
Right. Right. And then they would get
Scary.
upset when somebody like Tyndale came along and it's like, I'm going to make sure the farm plowboy can read the book himself. And I think now it's come down to where it's like, yes, now you can read, now you can dig into it, but we're going to raise the prices for you to find that book or that resource. We're going to make it so many distractions to keep you away from focusing on understanding that resource. And on top of that, we're going to take away the meaning of symbolism. So if you don't understand what the symbolism is, you're not going to understand the context of the text that you read or the visuals that you see. And I think that's kind of what they did. They substituted, okay, you can read, but now you don't understand the symbols.
Wow, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, who is this gentleman you mentioned? Tisdale? Tyndale?
Tyndale, William Tyndale. Yeah, they burned him at the stake for starting to to translate the Bible so that everybody can
Wow.
read it.
Well, and I can see them doing something like that. They're like, okay, if you're going to teach people how to read the Bible and educate them here, we'll just ramp up the distractions. We'll go more esoteric. We'll go, so it's like tit for tat kind of a thing. It is a
Correct.
war.
Yeah, well, again, the information war has never changed. Just the tactics have been updated.
Yeah, good
And I
point.
and I think because there's nothing new under the sun. That's true. But it always adapts. It evolves. That is something. Okay, so while the lies evolve and adapt, we always say evolution, but it's like no, we're de-evolving. We're not evolving because we don't understand anything. And when you do point out saying, "Hey, paganism isn't just oh, you're a bad person." No, it's like no, they're worshiping the elements over Creator God. That's a problem. And all of a sudden they're like, what are you gonna know? I that was the source. And when you understand that they needed like blood sacrifice from kids and stuff, kind of makes you scratch your head. Like, do you sure you want to go back to those ancient ways
Yeah.
and what the occult taps into, as opposed to the other guy sounds a lot better because he put himself on the line, as opposed to saying you got to sacrifice yourself on a cross. That's where I'm at. But again,
But not
everybody
everyone's
has
there. Every,
right, right,
and that is interesting as I see your content and you posting consistently on Instagram and you're really with high levels of courage going right into the center, driving the stake into the center of the belly of the beast. I mean,
yes.
yeah, some people do get triggered, don't they?
Incredibly like I mean on the Russell Brand thing I stated like I was calling out his tattoos. I was calling out like the counterfeit of Christianity, and they all jumped on the bandwagon of saying, oh, it's the one true church. And I'm just like, you see all the stuff with the statues of a priest and kid, and I'm not going to go into descriptive detail because it was really nasty, but I'm just kind of showing. I'm like, you want to support the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, you want to support the Crusades. And again, they don't know their history, but they are identifying with the organization, the institution. So this is where I go into it's even with modern politics, Republican or Democrat. Oh, you bashing my guys. That means you voted for that one. And it's like, no, but that's the thing. You've allowed yourself to become trapped in a bracketed box. So you can't see outside of that, that you can be neutral. And when you do state you're neutral, everybody looks at you like, what the hell? You're not part of my group,
Yeah.
you're not part of their group. Like that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
And the same thing has happened with churches is people are defending the adjective rather than just saying I'm an individual. So again, that is cult mindset. That's herd mentality, hive mentality, is that you have to defend your institution as opposed to saying my character speaks for itself. And that's it says that in the New Testament is let no man have anything evil to speak of you. And on top of that, examine if you be of the faith. When I'm pointing out this stuff, this kind of stuff to prod, look into that. They're over here like, oh, you're just Googling stuff. I'm like, no, I have like 12 books on the side, particularly on this topic and podcasts, but they don't want to
Mm,
dig. They'd rather
no.
just say, I'm part of this and that's it. And I'm like, so you want to identify with all the atrocities as well of the organization. That's the adjective you want to take on Whereas Christian is saying, I have my own personal reputation, life. It's a relationship. It's not. That's kind of what a whore does. They pimp themselves out, whore of Babylon. So if all denominations stem off of the Catholic Church, then yes, you're just a bastard of Babylon. I'm sorry to break it down for you, but so I think I really like the book by Frank Viola, Pagan Christianity, because he breaks it down as like, why do we get dressed up for church? Why did we evolve into this tithing? What is with these structures and temples that we call holy and sacred? And when you start understanding the history, you start like, well, contextually, why are we still doing that today?
Wow.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, people need to have those questions posed for them, like why are you doing this? And
Right.
and largely from your posts made me rethink the whole Christmas tree thing, those whole traditions. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. There are how far astray we've come from the true meaning. Those kind of things. People need to be questioned about those things.
Right. Absolutely.
Or
Um,
I should say, uh, the ones who want to grow and awaken and see clearly and truthfully, which many do, some don't want to. They're like, no, thank you very much, thank you, no thank you, good, you don't need to take it. But there are many people searching out there for the truth, like I said, as the house of cards from this system that is being exposed is
right.
collapsing.
It's and that's the irony. It's great that you put it that way. It is collapsing, and if people are awake, or at least understanding that 2020 was really weird, and now everything else after that, they're just like, oh, here we go again. Um, the other people, they don't see it. They just see chaos reigning. They're looking for another somebody for this election cycle save us. They're all looking in the wrong places. And I wrote some lyricals to that because I like thinking musicals or, poetry. And I was searching all around me in all the wrong places. My greatest enemy is why. You're always asking the question why. You're always looking here and there, but you never submit yourself to God. You never submit yourself to Christ, which is ironic because their ascension thing says you have to get rid of your ego to ascend. And what is it with us? We have to get rid of our reliance, our dependence on the things of this earth, this institution. And that's the scariest part is that people are so tied to that they don't want to get rid of their diapers. It's like you're now ready for underwear. You've evolved. You now know how to potty train yourself, but they still want to cling to mommy and daddy or big daddy government, as I like to call it. And it's
Yeah.
kind of sad, both sides. And that's why I call it Stockholm syndrome because you guys are relying so much on a two-party system that you can't see that and these are wrong. Or you're like, oh, it's the lesser of two evils. It's like, well, evil's still evil, so why would I still endorse evil?
Yeah. Well, what I notice with people around me and people that I see is that, and we talked about this last time, not everyone wants to research. Not everyone wants to dive in. They don't have this burning desire inside to know the truth. And I don't know. I'd love to get your feedback on this. Do you think
Yeah,
that is because maybe there's only a small a percentage, let's use the 80-20 principle or the 90-10, whatever, there's a small percentage, 10 to
right.
15% of people that are hungry for it? Or do you think that society has I guess for lack of a better word, like bred that out of us because there's so much entertainment, so much spoon fed? Do you think it's a either you have it or you don't, or do you think a large part of society has been that part's been gone dormant because there's so much entertainment pushed out our way, and we don't have to think about it?
Right. Through all mediums though, not just solely entertainment as in like theater or watching a movie. I think like it could be a video game, it could be a sports that you're just consumed with the competitiveness of things. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with competition, don't get me wrong, but there starts becoming a point where you and that's what I don't like about watching a lot, especially particularly male. I notice with a lot of male sports there tends to be this little macho thing. They think they're the greatest player on the field, court,
Mhm.
whatever you want to call it. And I really hate that because it starts becoming a bit of a narcissism aspect. And I start seeing that trickle off into said fans and followers because, it ends up becoming a macho mentality. And then you carry that from the stadium or whatever your TV and you bring it to your high school and it becomes a very better than thou mindset. And I think that's part of the thing where it says in the Bible is, people are going to be lovers of themselves in the last days and selfies, or look at how my success is all going for this and that. And there's never a moment of just saying, let me be real with you. I am a piece of crap, or I had a moment and I
Mhm.
fell, or I'm going through something there. And I think part of that is because they've kind of dehumanized the male in the aspect that you can't relay or show your emotions. You can't convey that in any way, shape, or form, or you're deemed like a soy boy or something of that effect. So people like myself that likes tapping into poetry, that likes tapping into the, unless I am already on the stage and I'm a big name, they don't care about the little stuff that I would write. And then you have the other aspect with feminism that it's destroyed femininity in the sense that there is no what do you call it, like an appreciation for what the man can contribute, for what he used to do in society. And I think part of that, it's really dampened relationships, it's dampened our morale, it's torn apart our homes. And I know there's like equal rights and yada and yada. Okay, I get it. I'm not saying your husband should be a individual that smacks you around, but I do think there should be an assertion of standards that are laid out and set. And now when you try to do that in this day and culture, they're over here, well, how dare you trying to control me? It's like, no, but I'm trying to protect our family with what little I have. And what's responsible for me, as for me and my house, we will serve the. So I am instructed to do this. If I just go, you know what, go ahead, put up your Christmas tree. It's, your family thing, whatever. I am not standing up and asserting what I am supposed to do. I'm not applying my faith. I am just capitulating because of society, or tapping into the feminism. And that's, like I stated before, that starts going into our society of you're impulsive, you're quick to think, you act with your emotions, not with logic, reason, and patience. Like having a conversation like this. This used to be the thing: is we'd have a beer, we'd smoke some cigars, we'd be in the living room by the fireplace, and we would have these philosophical discussions. And it was good because it was helping the man understand our society as it is right now. Now we have it where everybody's watching TV, and then they just let this all evolve for themselves, and they're alone. They have to think and process that for yourself. And
Mhm.
that taps into the word citizen. City means fast, like the city bank. And then Zen means thought, thinking, meditation. So you're basically saying fast meditation as a citizen. And it's kind of
Yeah.
sad because that's what we see in most of our society today, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Yeah, and that is, I guess, well, there's two things that I've been thinking about over the last number of years as what's been happening. One is because of podcasts, because of conversations, because of these things, that there is a positive aspect of that, and I think that is
Yes.
fueling this awakening, or this, like, people, when you're sharing this much information, this many people's perspectives about things, people are going to be like, oh, well, I think that too. And you really, you start stimulating that cognitive process and like jump
Right.
starting it again, which that's a positive thing. But on the other hand, when you have
Love it.
people staring at the television, they're like one-sided, just being spoon-fed entertainment, which,
Hmm.
there's a time and place for that. But when
Right.
it's the norm and you're not having those intellectual conversations, that's a really interesting way to put it.
Hmm.
You're not using your own processor. You've shut down your
Yes.
processor, and it's just all in, all one way.
I love the way you said like jumpstart. Yeah. And I think that's what we're supposed to do is, like, a woman nurtures the home, a man leads the house,
Well
you
said.
know?
Yeah.
And I think that comes from having like a lot of times with men these days, it's really like I said, I stated this back when I was 2014, 2015. So I had to been like 18, 19. I said, I feel better leaving a funeral than I do a wedding, because at a wedding, I'm actually losing a friend.
Mm.
Because a lot of people I know funerals, like, I know, especially Christians, they're going to heaven. But whereas if I'm leaving a wedding, it's like I never see my buddy again. A lot of times, and and I think that's kind of stupid, because we have for the reason I state that is that you shouldn't be so um invested with your marriage to the point that you have deprived yourself of all masculine interactions and camaraderie, because then you start to kind of desensitize yourself of what it is to be a man. Iron sharpens iron. You can't always have that from a feminine perspective. Sometimes you need another masculine man to kind of help, we need to eat more whey protein, bro, kind of build
Yeah.
that mentality. Whereas if you just solely surrender yourself entirely to the home, or just, go to work, and that's it. I've had a lot of friends state that, like, oh, I'm busy with my kids and I don't really have time for that. Don't have time for this. And then I'll see some stuff they're posting and I'm like, well, you had time for that. You had time.
Priorities, right?
Right. And I genuinely see, like, what we're talking right now. I'm trying to contribute. I'm trying to get like mental stimulation going on. And when they do comment, it's like anything they do bring up is, oh, what do you think of this one negative aspect of something that you didn't touch? And I'm like, I did touch on that. You
Hmm.
know, I try to consider all these contributing factors, but they always bring up the negative. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
if you're always focusing on the negative, you're not focusing on the overall message. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's kind of
Absolutely.
depressing.
It is. It is. And I even have to, catch myself very frequently and say, Mark, okay, what's right in the world? What can you share that's right? Because I'm just as guilty of that. It's like, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Hey, pay attention to this, look at this. And ultimately we need a little bit of both, a balance in that sense, because there is good things there are good things happening in the world. There are
Right.
positive things happening. And I need to remind myself of that as well. Um, let's talk about some of the current events that are going on, because I know you have deep knowledge around a lot of celebrity things in Hollywood and the Babylon and stuff like that. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts around the P. Diddy situation?
I was chuckling. I know it sounds kind of negative because considering the topic, but I was chuckling in the sense of, I'm not sure if you ever seen the show, but The Whitest Kids You Know, but there was an individual who was like the head of the cast, you might say, or the biggest brains behind it all. Uh, Trevor Moore. This guy recently died, but he was calling out Illuminati in his sketches, and he also did like a whole music video satire of a kid that was supposed to be emulating Justin Bieber. And he's talking like in the whole song, it's satire extreme, but he's talking about like, they put me in a trunk and they wash me down. I tried to run away, and then sometimes the old rich men will hunt me down on a resort. And I was chuckling because that they showed a picture of Justin Bieber with P Diddy and saying like his parents let him have him for the whole day. And I'm like, a 30 something year old guy, you're just or 40, whatever. You're going to let him be with a teenage kid for whole day. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't wrap my mind around that. And I think sometimes in Hollywood, if somebody's probably getting out of line, or somebody maybe there's actually once in a while somebody that actually is doing a case, and they're doing a good thing. But I know a lot of FBI and CIA, they have a lot of blackmail over Hollywood. So I think that's sometimes what they do is if somebody's getting out of line, or they had a conversation they weren't supposed to, that's when we get this kind of stuff in the media. And it's kind of just a little bit of like, any of you whoever get out of line, this is what's going to happen. Your
Yeah.
whole reputation is going to be slaughtered in the eyes and minds of the population. Your whole star status is going to be taken away from you. I personally think that's what happens, because I don't really buy their whole justice thing
Yeah.
most of the time.
I tend to agree with that. The first thing that came to my mind was, oh shit, who did he piss off? And they're sacrificing one of their soldiers for the greater.
Right.
I mean, in this day and age, I don't believe it. I never take anything they say at face value on the media or politicians. So I'm always skeptical right out of the gate. But it
Right.
is, it is. He is a to my knowledge, very influential, powerful person in the industry. And so I'm like, wow, they're going hard in the paint with one of their own there.
Well, I think you kind of have to, because it is a fear-based system in a lot of Hollywood, unless you're like a A-lister. Anybody who's like B plus, they're kind of more in the category of, we can scrap you at any point. We can take away. We
You're
gave, we can
expendable.
also, right. We gave
Yeah.
and we can take away. It's just like, your mom, I could take you out of this world. I brought you in. It's the same way in
Yeah.
Hollywood. We made you, we can take you down overnight. And
Mhm.
I think that's something where they have to sometimes jerk the reins, or they have to punish one slave in order for everybody else to go,
Yeah.
oh, shoot. Okay. I'm going to keep doing the symbols. I'm going to
You know,
keep doing the music or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
fall in line, right? Straighten
Right.
up. Oh,
Right.
wow. That's that. Yeah, because it is. I mean, and I also want to touch on one of your recent posts. I didn't dive fully into it, but I know you posted about Chris Pratt, and
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it sounds like you got a little bit of pushback from your audience. Chris Pratt's an interesting character because historically he has appeared to be, maybe one of the or purported to be one of the beacons of Christianity in the sea of,
Right.
let's just call it, for lack of a better word, darkness in Hollywood. So what happened with the Chris Pratt post, and what went down?
I got a lot of kickback in the sense like one person was like, "Oh, so every time I do rock on now, that means I mean hail Satan, whatever." And those are the people I remove right away because you obviously are not awake just yet. Go away. Um, my door is open to those who are actually seeking the esoteric meaning of things. I'm trying to help wake you up so when you see it, even the most shining people like the allegedly the Sound of Freedom movie or like Mel Gibson is another one. I'm showing you guys this is a gesture what it means esoterically. They're consistently doing this gesture. And if you understand what the meaning of the gesture is, you start going, okay, why are you doing that? Despite the reputation you're pitching to me in Hollywood, there's this aspect of things where it's like, okay, there you're wearing a little veil for how I'm supposed to perceive you. And then when I lift up the veil, it ends up being a demonic, face ready to
Right, you
devour
got a
you. If I
mask on, so to
right,
speak,
it's just
right?
like it's Frankenstein, and that's by ways of analogy, and I think that's kind of where people are in shock when they see quote unquote a titan of the faith actually be a snake. And I think that's kind of what they're trying to do is once in a while they need to create the aspect of something like that being there. Like he's married, I think, to Schwarzenegger daughter or was married. I don't follow all of that jargon. I just know
Hmm.
rough whatever. And it's like even being related into that family, at a certain point, it's like, guys, I know you like just seeing the cute little couple, but when you start unraveling the dominoes, this one has this bloodline, that one has that bloodline. Why are you, and if your testimony is supposed to be a man of faith and Christianity, I can't say exactly like Schwarzenegger is one of the shining beacons of
Right.
example that would have a good reputation with said daughter and then, passing on that good into the next family. So yeah, I think, and especially the Mel Gibson one, I got a
Yeah.
bunch of Catholic ladies saying I'm going to hell, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, and I
again,
saw your Mel Gibson post too there, and I have for a long time thought he was okay, maybe a good guy, and his,
right,
but then I always come back to this idea that if to get at the high to achieve the highest level status, superstar in Hollywood, in that type of system, logically you cannot be a good guy. I mean, or a good
right.
gal. Do you feel that way?
I posted the other one about the gravy ceremonies, and here's Steven saying he's like, in order to kind of get some of your stats, like once in a while you're around for a bit, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna invite you over, and then they're like, you go into a room, there's three guys with masks, stuff like that, and they're like, all right, he's gonna do you just like he was doing the other guy, and they're like, well, no, no, no. He says, well, you want that record deal, right? And this
Hmm.
happens every single time. You want a new line of cologne, you want to do a fashion design, stuff like that. And people don't seem to realize that there it is a blackmail system and tier level in
Yeah.
Hollywood. And I think like Whitney Houston was somebody who was trying to get out because her whole family said that she hated bats, but bats are seen as altars in the occult. Heath Ledger was another individual I think that was trying to get out because again, a lot of simple. I'm not going to dig into all that.
Sure.
And then I think Matthew Perry as well, from Friends. I think he was another individual because he even wrote in his biography, if I start posting Batman stuff frequently on my blah, blah, blah. And what sure enough happened to him, he died in a hot tub. So again, I know some people are saying, oh, it's because he went to Epstein. And I'm just like, guys, I'm just saying, I think certain individuals are trying to get out, but there's also rules at play. You can't talk about it. You can't exactly say something about it. Prince, I think on his Twitter, somebody screenshotted it. Said they're after me. If they can come after me, they can come after anybody. And you went through his luggage. He had like a certain amount of money, which when you added it up, it was a certain number. But he also had a book on the Nephilim giants by a
Mm.
particular author. And I was just like, Well, it sounds like somebody was trying to tap into understanding where all of this is coming from because he understands the occult, but I think he's starting to have second thoughts like, is what I'm investing in really the truth? And I think that's sometimes when they start offing people because it's just like, okay, you know, you don't want to be part of our little club anymore?
Yeah,
Fine, we'll off you. And again, that's what the whole on masonry is supposed to be. You want out, then we'll let you out, but you'll be our
right.
sacrifice.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm glad you said that because I think that everyone is well aware that when you get into a gang, I mean a super bad gang, there's a beat in and a beat out.
Right,
It's not a walk in the park. And I think what happens, especially for mainstream America who has no clue about it, they don't understand that type of thing. They've never researched that type of thing. For people, they just like, well, what do you mean? Or a person who's good, how are you going to tell them about bad people in the world? They have no frame of reference whatsoever. And so I'm glad you brought that up because it is there is something to be given and there's something to be taken away. And when you're playing in that kind of arena, which is like the ultra dark game in the world, yeah,
right,
this isn't a beat in and a beat out. This is you want to come in, we'll give you everything, but you don't get out. And I
right.
do think people wake up, like you said. I think they get in there
That's
and go, "Hey, I don't want to be here anymore. This is tap. I'm not. I want to go home now." you know.
I would like to check out, please. And that again, that's
To
Hotel
check out.
California. You can check in,
Yeah.
but you can never leave. And I don't think people understand is like sometimes they're really telling you their trauma or what they're actually experiencing with their lyrics. Even Prince, when Corona hit, he was talking about the tracker you got from vaccination, and I'm like, this is New World Order. That was the name of his song, and I can't find it anywhere unless I could probably get the CD or Spotify. But I was like, tracker you got from vaccination. They're always listening, especially on the phone. When you're trying to find the lines between a boy and a girl, I was like, well, that's a transgender movement. So again, I'm like, and you wrote this back in 1996.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, what did you know? And then all of a sudden he gets off the way he did. And I think you're right. I think there's certain people that eventually go back down to the lobby and they're just like, I'm going to try to make
Yeah.
a break for the door.
Yeah.
And they don't make it. It's
They
like the
don't
Hotel
make it.
Continental with John Wick, if to use that as an analogy. It's
Yeah.
just more satanic as opposed to guns. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
you
Once you're
just broke
in,
the
you
con.
don't get out.
Yeah, it's like what is it? Activate the
The
what's the
token
phrase? No,
or
the token was like he's now incognito or whatever with the phrase that
oh,
they
I
use
don't
in the
remember the
movies.
specific phrase, but I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
it's like that's
Mhm.
kind of what happens. Is like, all right, there's a bounty on him. Everybody, all the hit
Yeah.
guys that we
Yeah.
got,
Send
go
send
and
a
find them.
message.
Yeah.
Well, and I'd love to get your take on this because I often wonder how that process happens, do you think people, artists say they're a singer or a writer or a screenwriter, they go along in their life, they go to college, they get this degree, and then they find themselves in Hollywood and they get seduced by the system and then like they said they're offered a deal.
Hmm.
Do you think that's the way it happens, or do you think that it goes deeper than that and that these organizations are grooming people from a young age to and picking them to say, okay, you're the next it person 15, 20 years down the road? Which way is it, or is it a little bit of
Yes.
both?
Yes. I think it's kind of both. I think because a lot of times when you're like, oh, I love this celebrity, it's like, how come you never see anything with their parents in photos?
Good point. Good point. Like, who raised this person? Who gave birth to this person? Is that kind
Right.
of what you're saying?
Yeah. And personally, when I was growing up, I had a huge crush on Bridget Mendler from Good Luck Charlie, and she was on Disney. But you look at her life and you don't see her, all cryptic and whatnot. She's actually kind of focused on her studies. You see pictures of her occasionally with her husband and who is it now? Her you see her family once in a while, and I'm like, that looks normal. That looks natural. Then you see other celebs, and you're just like doing the occult pose, doing this, getting this deal, and you're kind of like, okay, you can kind of tell at a certain point who's been groomed, as you were saying, like a Hannah Montana, definitely groomed, 1,000%. With Monarch programming, you're noticing that on stage with her handler and all that, and then you have other individuals where like a Sylvester Stallone, I think he was a teacher originally, and then all of a sudden okay, you're Rocky, like where the heck did this come from? And he did porn for a little bit, so who knows,
I
maybe
heard
somebody was
that.
like, yeah, like, hey, would you be interested in now going into action movies? You got a great bod, yada yada, and then one thing leads to another, and boom, you're suddenly, this isn't so bad actually. I mean, if this is the club, and yeah, I mean, this is a great deal. It's good money. And I think that's kind of where it falls into those categories, is that it comes to a point where it's like, we're willing to make you this offer. Here's a contract. What do you think? Not much of a change. All you got to do is do this once in a while. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And they sign up for this. And then you have other ones that are like, Billy Ray Cyrus that probably is like, you know what? She's kind of dumb anyway. So go ahead, take my daughter and do whatever you
Yeah.
want, which is sad.
Yeah.
That's incredibly sad.
It is. It is. It's not something to be laughed about. I shouldn't be laughing about that. But I do think that's probably what happens. And also, I mean, when the powers that be in that arena are flashing that kind of a money, it's like, okay, well, now what is she going to have to do again? What are they going to? Oh, okay, well, and they're
Right.
certainly not going to tell you the whole kit and caboodle by any imagine stretch of the imagination. But it's interesting you brought up Stallone. I do feel that way too. It's almost like you can sense the ones that are still grounded, are more or less more grounded than the others, and that are
Right.
still like in charge of themselves. Do you think, well, do you think that because some of them go hard in the paint with the symbolism, with the signs, with the da 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 da, and then other times you don't see some of them do it at all. Do you
Right.
think it's kind of like an unwritten law of, hey, if you want to do this, maybe you get bonus points or more, street cred or opportunities. If you don't, you're still making money for us. Is that
Right.
how you kind of see it?
I actually, yeah, I would genuinely say is like you show the gang sign. Here's maybe another contract or something like that, or you endorse our product or something like that, doing a little like oh look, I'm seductive. It's like no, you're throwing out a little like you're using your status, your avatar status, as they again, a lot of them are getting possessed with this stuff, but you're using your face and avatar to represent the system. And then I think there's other ones where it's like I did a one-time deal, but I'm happy where I'm at. I don't
Yeah,
need all this extra glim glam, but they're still in the club, but they keep their mouths shut when
sure.
they start seeing things. So this is where you get like the producer for Hunger Games, and I think he did Hoosiers or whatever, the basketball one back in the 1980s, I think. But he
Hmm.
was calling out saying, guys, what about the kids? Like
Yeah,
he's talking to say like a lot of these ladies, you would know them right off the bat. You see this celebrity's face and you'd be like, I know this person from somewhere, even if you didn't know the name. And I was saying, like, we're not talking about this. We know this Epstein stuff. We know what's going on right now. I've seen these kind of parties be talked about and stuff like that. But we never voice it. What about the kids? We're always saying, me too, but nobody ever advocates for the kids. And he's like, but this stuff does go on. I'm like, this is a high priority guy. This isn't somebody that's just going through this, but some of them are aware, but they're just not taking any status because if they do,
right.
which is sad.
It is sad. It is sad, and I some because it is, with the powers that really run this world, and the finances and the opportunities that you do have to think about that. I mean, everyone has to live in the world. Everyone is plugged into a greater or lesser degree to the system, so to speak. And so
Yes.
sometimes I don't fault the people. It's kind of like what the Dalai Lama said, not to go down that road, but you know, um, it's if you don't have anything nice, if you
Nice to
can't help
say.
someone, at least don't hurt them, kind of a thing, right? If you can't
Right.
help fix the system, at least don't be a part of the problem. And
Hmm.
so that's a factor, because I mean, we've seen the ones who speak out and go real aggressive, and they don't do very well.
Right.
Let's say, putting it mildly, in some cases.
Yeah.
you know but yeah, I do feel that some of them that have either a strong dominant personality, know who they are, maybe came in later in the game and are like, hey, I'm gonna make the money, you'll make money, but don't ask me to do any funky shit, kind of
Mhm.
a thing. And I think they're like, okay, fine, you'll just be in this category.
Right.
And I think Stallone does appear to be in that kind of a thing. He seems like, he has his own thing going on, strong personality. But I think when they get the kids is when they really can go, okay, hey, let's just,
It's more coercion.
yeah, we can just form you however way we want to,
Well,
which is
again,
sad.
he lost his sons, and a lot of the times it requires a firstborn son.
Who lost their son? Who?
Stallone.
Oh, I didn't know that. I only knew he had daughters. I did not know that.
But a
Yeah,
lot of times it
that's
requires the male, and this is this is in continuity of why God said to the children of Israel, paint a lamb's blood over the doorpost. I'm going to be taking the firstborn of
mm,
every male in the house. This is what the occult does. So God's saying I can do that too, but I'm not going to sacrifice it I'm going to be doing it as an I can claim them if I so choose.
sure.
That's terrifying again in that culture because that means your seed, your heir, your lines. But again, It's kind of like I have a fictional series, like I said, Steampunk Medieval, where where it's a very brutal cult like thing, but it's like may the strong endure. If you want to reign or you want to make the claim for sovereign, because you get it for life, you can have it for up to, two family terms, and then that has to rotate to one of the houses. But if you want it, you have to put in your stake and you have to fight for it. If you die, then their whole family basically gets wiped out, and the
Mm.
governor takes over and replaces that. So it's a tier system where only the strongest one is going to make it forward. And I think that's kind of how they see it in the occult aspect of things, is only the most prominent of our individuals and stuff like that, only their line is going to continue. Only their line is going to have this fame and stardom for like generation, generation, generation.
Wow. So are you kind of saying they will, I don't want, I'm trying to think of the right word, kind of pull out the more strong-willed, the maybe more based people and say, hey, here's our, because that does kind of what it appears to be. I mean, when you got all of Hollywood, marching to the same tune, it's like you guys, but there's not a lot of personality, there's not a lot of dissension. There's like that's a huge red flag, and it's also very creepy,
Mm-hmm.
you
Well, I
know.
think I think to a very vast extent, a lot it's I don't know, but again, I'm surmising from what I see of the occult, what I understand of like if I was in the club, this is probably what I would do. I would be like, how much are you willing to sacrifice for your god of this earth? So the more you sacrifice for him, the more prominent you are in the club in the bloodlines, or you can get closer and closer to marrying into said bloodlines because you've shown how much you love the group and the order, the society, as it were. I think that's kind of how they structure it in that sense. Then you also have the ones that are like, I'm in, but like I'm only gonna wear a ring. I'm
Yeah, I'm not gonna go full crazy or
right.
full crazy like you guys,
Put
but
my
I
right
will.
hand in, take my right hand out. Um,
Yeah.
but they also don't go to the clubs. They just like, okay, I did the one time deal or I slipped with that one time thing, but that's as far as I'm going to go. And this again, maybe this is why certain Hollywood actors, you're just like, where did they go all of a
Yeah.
sudden?
Yeah.
Like
They're,
Brendan
they're,
Fraser. I don't know, but he kind of disappeared off the face of the earth all of a sudden when he was
yeah.
in the height of like kids knew him. Adults knew him. He had a pretty boy face, and all of a sudden the first thing he gets noted for again is the whale, which is like, was
Hmm.
that a humiliation ritual, dude? Like, I'm not saying it wasn't bad acting.
I
I was just
thought that
like,
same way. I was like, wow, this is a crazy type of a situation.
right,
Well, and the other thing that I think sometimes happens with these celebrities is, like you said, they get in, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go in, do my time, pull out my millions, and I'm out and living in, say some place away from farthest away from Hollywood as I can get, and
right.
they kind of, kind of like what was that movie in the crying game when you go in the shower and wash with the was it wash all the ick off you and be like, okay,
Yes.
I'm never thinking it, but don't ever speak of this.
Right.
you
Never talk
know,
about this again.
because it does appear to be a sick in the underbelly of that is a sick industry that with well, and I'm seeing I'm sure you saw this, there's this
Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon thing
I'm
coming
doing a post
out.
upcoming on that.
Yes, I'm going to be reacting to a video as well. Like, it was on Good Morning America that I saw the clip. They had this thing, and again, along the lines of the P Diddy thing, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what are you doing here, guys? You're basically telling the world that, yeah, we have this huge problem, and it's one of the worst problems that can be had in the world. But yet, why are you even talking about it? So I'm like, what's going on here? For them to even be putting in mainstream, what are they even doing? What's your thoughts on it?
Oh, I did a whole show on that. And every single person I've done this particular show with, they have had problems with the editing.
What do you mean? Like, you did an interview
I know
or
I did a deep dive. What is the connection between Khazar, Epstein's Island, and QAnon? What's their end game? And every single time I've done this presentation, the host is like, I've never had this problem before, or blah, blah, blah. Like it's the Hope Diamond presentation.
really?
Yeah. Because, and again, it gives me it solidifies my theory that okay, I'm not crazy because
Yeah.
apparently every time they start tinkering around with this stuff, they're like, we don't want this message getting out there.
Yeah.
But I've speculated that I think why they're like, okay, they know this is going on, so let's start utilizing this to our advantage. Trump needs to drain the swamp, right? So again, Personally, I suspect possibly AC, and I'm just saying that because I've studied a lot of the Hermeticism. He's got a lot affiliated with him, but let's not go into that right now. But um, he has got a lot of that affiliations. They're already creating the persecuted Messiah figure, and if he comes back in, he needs to drain the swamp because he didn't get to do it last time. So in the QAnon community, or people that are still brushing with it, uh, this is going to be perfect because they tried to take me out because yada yada yada, and then they can bring in the clone thing where it's like, but I have been putting my own people into place and power over the last couple of years, and we are going, so we're already creating a little bit of the oh okay, so the white hats, this one's been executed, that one's been
Yeah.
executed, this one's under house arrest. And again, when I typed that into my phone, because they had a whole list, it was a QAnon list, this one's under house arrest, this one's been executed, this one's in Gitmo or whatever, and I typed in Noahide laws, and that list popped up. That's not even on the picture. It was one of two photos that popped up on my phone, and I'm looking at this thing going, okay, how did I was speculating, and that is what popped up, even though that
Wow.
word and terminology is not on there. So I was like, is this possible where they're going to start weaponizing it? Where it's like, oh, yes, we're now going after the industry, but it ends up becoming like a Salem witch trial.
Yeah.
You're one of those people. You support that. Yeah, 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 yeah. As opposed to going after the real perpetrators. So it
Yeah.
ends up becoming a thing where it's like, again, everyone's saying Epstein was CIA. It's like, no, he has ties to
Yeah.
Zion
We
land.
know where, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And Mossad, and his recruiter was Robert Maxwell, and his daughter was Ghislaine. So it's all laid out there. It's a very nasty little love story for them, but it ends up connecting and tracing back to the, and again, who would you
Hmm.
need to introduce this? The champion of Noahide laws, as it states in Israeli national news. So, and that was Mr. T. So I
Yeah.
was just chuckling and I was like, okay, so are they going to try to weaponize this? Like I said, they're going to do a reverse boomerang and then turn it into like a Salem witch trial where anybody that's, oh, you must be one of them, put you in the wood chipper. It's like, no, I'm one of the people that's been calling this out for the last several years. And
Yeah.
because you love the guy more than the truth of what I'm pointing out, that's why I'm going to die for it.
It's yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's why, and this what sometimes frustrates you with the general masses is they again, and I've been there, I'm there in different aspects, different topics, but this surface level, just like they do with Q. Hey guys, hold on, we're taking care of it. It's being done behind the scenes, or like they said, if they do something up front, like the P. Diddy thing, like something else, we got the bad guy. Oh,
Right.
good, we can sleep well at night.
Right.
And then meanwhile business as usual because that's not the head of the snake. It's frustrating.
Well, yeah, and then they keep doing stunts like the bridge thing over in Baltimore. Um, and like you said, it's like, oh, I can now sleep at night. Or they watch the Sound of Freedom movie,
Yeah.
and they suddenly I'm like, okay, so what happened with that? They're over here like, oh yeah, child trafficking is bad, and nah, but now this is an issue that's getting promoted, and it's like, yes, I'm against the child trafficking. I have no problem with that. Yes, I'm against the whole industry. I think that should be destroyed. It's horrible. But when I'm pointing out to people who helped produce this movie and their Masonic Jesuit ties, suddenly everybody goes, "Oh, you're pro the child trafficking? Oh, you're pro." It's like, no, but there's also the Masonic chip program with kids and the ID, and they're over here just going. And again, like you said, it
Yeah.
blows their mind because they don't understand the occult. And I think that's the problem is everybody's expecting the rapture extraction. And so therefore when they're called to fight spiritual warfare while they're here, like you said, call it out, sound the alarm. They don't want to do that. But they think they are through mediums of entertainment, or this movie said everything I've been wanting to say, but you
Yeah.
yourself don't ever say a thing in public.
Well said.
That's what's scary. And that's why I hate about some podcasts where it's like they're just talking, but it's a word salad.
Well
There's no meat.
said.
What we're
Well said.
saying, we're like, guys, does that make sense to you? I want you to start being like me. And then again, not in the sense that I'm better than you, but more in the sense of start asking these questions, start implementing these things into other people's lives because people need their minds cultivated and weeded from the stupidity in the life. They need to be exposed. And like I see frequently, I post something on Trump and I already lost like 8 people on the one I did today. And it's why? Because they love the guy so much that
Yeah.
even if I show you him in the uniform, they're over here going, no, 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 he's still. That's the problem we have. And because you're not willing to dig into what I've dug into the occult, you're of course going to be offended because that's your truth. That's Sophists 101 is that's your truth. Not that's not what I believe.
Yeah. What I think it is that people are so afraid to have nothing to cling to. They're like, well, I got to cling to this because the other guy, these are
Yeah.
my two options. I can't let go of this life raft. Meanwhile, people that know what's up, they're like, well, I'm tethering from all the bullshit and I'm going to go out on my own, clinging to the truth. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
not around here.
And I think that's kind of the thing is they've divided it where it's like, well, I want to go with mommy for the day, or I want to go with daddy. That's Republican Democrat. That is your Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like,
Wild.
oh, you vote for a third party candidate. That's throwing away your vote. I want to go
Yeah.
with Uncle Dan for the week. Is that a like?
Yeah,
Do you
true.
understand? Like that's what we've have it cut down to, and that's why I call it Big Daddy government, and it is a form of Stockholm syndrome
Yeah.
because you love the pain, you love being lied to. People will pay
Yeah.
money to be lied to.
Yeah.
That is a soothsayer. And that's again broadcasting. What do you think that they're giving you word salads to make you feel good, to justify your thinking. And then you repeat what they say, but when it comes to an independent thought and conversation for yourself, you condemn them or you're like, "Oh, you went after Biden." Or so you must be a Trump guy, or it's vice
Hmm.
versa. You go after Trump, here's a Biden silly photo. You voted for this. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
what I'm telling you is it's an illusion. It's a game. They're giving you the court jester right now. Then they're going to bring on the king. Then they're going to, if you understand, like again, like I said, it's ushers of truth. People are over here, they're watching the little show that's on performing on stage,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're saying, okay, I know you're throwing your tomatoes at the guy right now because funny, funny, and he's acting like you know
Dunce,
a
an
donkey,
idiot.
yeah, the
Yeah.
dunce, and you're over here throwing your tomatoes, throwing your eggs, and I'm over here going like, here's a pamphlet. This is the guy that's behind the curtain. No one gets in to see the wizard. I don't want to know that part
Mhm.
because it would ruin the illusion,
Sure.
and that's
And
what
blow
people
people's
like.
minds
Right,
and Fritz with and be like, "Bzz, bzz." It's like that. What's happening now is almost it's
the Great
really
Deception.
it's a great deception, and I see even Democrat people turning on Biden. I'm like, holy shit, this is almost more dangerous than when it was like, okay, two party against party. There's like everyone's turning on this guy, and so like, okay, de facto this other guy is going to be the one just by de facto. I'm like, that's super freaking dangerous
Mhm.
because the manipulation, the deception, the mind game. It's wild to watch.
It is, and some people are like they're messing me. He's like, "Oh, Trump doesn't match a thing. So he has to be from Syria," and I'm like, "Well, we already have the eagle, which is symbolizing of the bird from Syria, which connects to the bird that would carry you to the next life, your final destination." Hermes was
Mhm.
known as carrying souls to hell, Hades. And people are saying, well, Trump's not charismatic enough. I'm like, well, if everybody that dies from the miracle juice of a certain era,
Mhm.
who's left standing?
Yeah.
The diehards, the Mithra cap wearers, the ones wearing MAGA, which means mage, great illusionist,
Yeah.
magician on the tarot cards known like this, just like the Statue of Liberty. And what did the Mithra cult wearers wear? They wore little red caps like the elf. What did the Sons of Liberty, Masons, what did they wear? Little red caps for Mithra. It's like, guys,
It's all right there. Once you
it's
see it, you cannot once what is seen cannot be unseen, right?
right. And another one for MAGA in Sanskrit is High Priest of the Sun. The Satanic Church of Satan, like the highest priest position, is MAGA.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, I could be wrong. But when you see this many coincidences and red flags, you're just going, no, no, you're wrong because he's not charismatic because you're wanting to buy the truth and illusion that you see it as. Like in Mar-a-Lago, he's got an Ark of a Covenant replica. He's now printing a Bible.
Wow, I
I'm
didn't
like,
know
I'm like, guys,
that. Yeah, what the way I do is I'm like, I had to make a pro and con column. Okay, let's look logically at this, and all those things that you just said are in the con column. Like, I'm not going to deny what appears. I'm open to. I'm keeping my mind open too. However,
there's
all
one should.
signs point to, what? I'm not going to deny that. But some people cannot and will not go there. I think it's out of fear that they don't want to let go of it. I think I get it. I feel for people,
So
that
do
don't want
I.
to let go.
And I somewhat pity them because it's kind of like the rich man is just like, what, I've already been obeying all these laws. What else must I do? Is like get rid of your coins, and you're just like,
Mm.
no, I can't do that. And in America, we have, home of the free, home of the brave. And I'm like, no, it's more of the greed and home of the slave. It's called the
Yeah.
American dream because you have to be asleep in order to believe it. That's what George Carlin said. And I was like, absolutely, buddy. I mean, he might have been in
Yeah.
the club too. But here's the thing, folks, very potent truth, because everybody in America is so consumed with gaining everything. And I wrote another thing where I was like, we're all busy. Here we are in the land of the free, bragging about our rights and our liberties. And here we are, we're multiplying, and we're all too busy with dying because everybody wants their
Mm.
401k. Everybody wants them in them. And it's like, well,
Security.
right. But it's like that again, carrying the souls to hell. That's what you want on your resume when you finally get there, because that was your or secular definition of success and
Yeah.
wealth, as opposed to when you get to heaven saying, like, what did you do? Well, I was just waiting for the rapture until I got here. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's not working. That's not doing anything in the field. And I think that's kind of what we're getting with the American culture, especially. We're very narcissistic. We all think that this country is the only thing that God loves. And it's like, no, it's not country, it's people. We focus more on the people, we might be able to reach more souls. Like again, when I was telling people with what's going on in the Middle East with Gaza, it says I'm pro humanity. Doesn't mean I'm converting to Islam. That's a sin.
Likewise. Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. I'm seeing these things, and I'm like, guys, how can you justify? And you see, like, oh, they're acting. They're
Yeah, the programming is deep. It is deep level
yes,
mind programming. It's funny you bring up well, not funny, but it's that's what I was thinking too. When I really sit down and contemplate the heinous atrocities against humanity, in Iraq, in Gaza, in Yemen, in Syria. I don't know much as much about the Syria.
right,
Um,
right.
in all these countries around the world under the guise of spreading freedom and democracy, and meanwhile, oh, it's just to enrich the war machine and
Take oil and do
human
this, and
sacrifice, yeah, and enrich corporations. When that shoe drops with Americans, they're going some of them are going to faint, some of them are going to weep like little babies, like I have
mhm,
done many times. I'm like, what in the F have we done to this world? And
right,
it just hasn't hit America because they're so consumed with this entertainment and buy this, buy that. It's sad.
right. Eh,
We're complicit.
we're complicit because I'm silence is compliance. And I
Yes.
think somebody wrote it whereas like first they came for these group, and then I didn't say anything, but then they came for this group and I didn't say anything, but then they came for me and there was no one there to help
Yep.
me.
Yep.
And that's kind of what I'm seeing over there. And it's just like, just because they're a different religion or they have different cultural things, and I've never been over there, does not give me any means, right, or justification to endorse and sponsor
Yeah.
atrocities. And that's why I said, I'm like, I would defect in a heartbeat. And again, not necessarily
Likewise.
showing loyalty to a country, but it's just more so of the cause. Like, how can I say that I'm the good guy? I'm bringing democracy when I am literally, like, in order to pave that road, I am napalming the entire. I'm going scorched earth for everybody.
Yeah.
That's that's not the solution, my friend. And if you think a
Mm-mm.
gun or a sword is going to convert or to change a
Bring
culture,
peace. Yeah.
you have the wrong idea, my friend. It sounds cool
Yeah.
when we're reading about conquerors in that sense, but it's very nasty when you see it unfold on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the things that's becoming very clear about what's happening in Gaza, and this is over the last month or so, I'm getting this sense of it is one reason. One, there's two reasons why I'm against it. One, it's wrong. I'm not
Right.
down for killing, genocide. Two is I get the very real sense that Israel will do the same thing to me or anyone on earth that they're doing to Gaza, and I'm like, holy shit. Two reasons that I have to speak out about it.
Yeah.
You know.
And guys, there's nothing wrong with standing up for the underdog. Like that's what we're supposed to be doing in America, right? With like we're just saying with Stallone. We're always
Yeah.
cheering for the underdog. We're always cheering for Katniss Everdeen. But when it actually comes for us to actually say something or do something, suddenly we're just like, I don't want to talk about that. Or I'll send somebody a documentary, like the 53-minute one I told you,
Yes.
and they just go suddenly quiet. Or my aunt, I was telling her, like, this is what's in their Talmud. And she's just going
Yeah.
to, oh? I'm like,
Yeah. Does not compute,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Does not compute, like from the was it Star Wars or something
error,
like that?
error, error,
Roger, Roger.
and but that's funny you say that, because that's what I think too. We have all these movies where the hero is going against, and it's always the government or these.
Yes.
And but yet in the real world, it's flipped, it's inverted. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, there's less people that are you. You'd think they'd be just the opposite. We've been just quote unquote trained by the media. I follow
Yes.
another guy by the name of John Joseph, and he was a punk rocker in some bands, Kroll mags and whatnot like that. And he calls out the music industry and all of the quote unquote punk bands and Rage Against the Machiners for all
Right.
these years. And then 2020 goes down, and they're like, "Hey, we're on their side, so go get the thing, because if you're cool like us." And he calls them out, and I'm like, that is badass, because we
Right.
saw a lot of people that were supposedly anti-government, anti-authoritarian, start saying, "Hey, go listen to the gov, my friends." It was
Right.
wild. You can't make this shit up.
Well, and I think especially another term I have noticed, and I used to go once in a while to the Turning Point USA, and again I wasn't going as in I was supporting republicanism. I was just going because I was kind of can I find any peers here? Can I find anything of worth? And I just kept noticing radical left, and then when you listen to Alex Jones or somebody like Luke, like we were talking about last night,
Yes.
always refers to the other side, and then like the conservatives are only the good guys, and I'm like, when you constantly do that, suddenly I'm like, come on, guy. Like, you can't say both sides are in the wrong. And I think that's why people automatically, like, they see the liberals that are protesting with masks on, and they're like, oh, look at that. But it's like,
Easy
right.
targets, right?
But their hearts are in the right place humanitarian wise. I'll give them that. But when it comes to like, maybe social and critical thinking skills of that aspect of things, maybe they're lacking, but it doesn't mean you have to throw out the baby with the bathwater, as because maybe there's some redeemable thing. We can extend the olive branch and try to reason here. We can come to a middle ground. And
Mm-hmm.
even like my former sensei, he was giving me all this, oh, so I'm supporting the terrorists if I don't support Israel. And I'm like, no, and I just sent you all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. I
Yeah,
got you
it's
a
not black
400
or
page
white.
book. Yeah.
It not only is it not black or white, but these two things have a head. The wings of the bird have a head. There's a head on that
Yes.
bird. You want to go toward that thing, not the wings. Don't get distracted.
Or even the Masonic bird with two eagle heads on each
Yeah,
side.
good point. Good point. Well,
They're mocking you all the time,
they
my
are. Yeah,
friends.
they're just sit back and laugh, because as they see, I think about the ant in the jar analogy too, black ants, red
Mm,
ants, and the jar is being shaken. I mean, it's
yes.
once you see it, it's like, come on, don't you see this? Stop fighting amongst yourselves. There's another meme I have of a rich banker looking character. It's a cartoon, and he's looking at this terrarium, and there's two guys in there, and the meme says, "I love watching the poor ones kill each other."
Yes.
I mean, you can't make this up. When you see it, it's so simplistic. But then again, there was a time when I didn't fully see it, and I
Right.
was still in the quote in the matrix, so to speak. And I think we all are to different degrees that continually, anyway, as we awaken.
Well, I think
Um,
that's the problem is that a lot of politicians, they'll put on the mask and say, I'm one of you. And we
yes,
need to fight. We need, like Winston Churchill. He says one thing is we will storm them on the beachheads, we will do this and then behind the scenes, this is an actual quote. You can Google it, folks. He says, I love this war in every aspect of it.
I've seen that. Yeah,
And
I've seen
I'm
that.
like, it's this is one of the worst wars ever
Hmm.
with the technology that we have developed to kill one another, and you're basically saying you love every aspect of this.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
talk about the definition of hypocrisy behind closed doors. But he
yeah,
also was in the club, and again, I think
sure,
that's like you said, they love seeing us fight because they themselves don't want to do it, and we're always saying, well, what if they just fought each other? And it's like they are in the same group.
yeah.
All the stuff that happens on the ground, they just adapt and evolve to get the outcome that they wanted.
Hmm.
Sure, there's some cool hero stories, but again, that's per individual. And of course, they'll capitalize on that. They'll make a movie and they'll say it's a good patriot movie, and we'll
Yeah,
all buy it and be like, oh, the
raw.
feels, the
Yeah,
fuzzies. And at the end of the day, it was like, was is this something we really want to endorse and promote?
yeah.
Is that it was a good thing? And I really like it when somebody does the reverse in a script of really making you think like, was it really all worth it?
Yeah.
you know? And I love that. And I think that's part of the thing when I was going through my phase. I really was sympathizing with a PTSD soldier is I've been through so much. Why is it no one can understand what I'm trying to say or see?
Hmm.
And again, that was my first thing ever published was a poem about a soldier. And I think that's kind of was also the tipping point for me as I started saying we all are going through an internal battle. We all are struggling. And a lot of us aren't bothering to say, okay, let's talk about the experience. Because
Hmm.
that had to been very rough on you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. We are all part of a psychological, it's not even an experiment. It's a full
Spiritual too.
on, yeah, psychological and spiritual, experience that, manipulation, deception, lies, inversion, all of the things.
Right.
But until we start bringing it to the light and talking about it, it's kind of like healing trauma. Until you acknowledge it and bring it to the surface, look
Yes.
at it, but for some
Take it
people,
apart.
take it apart, and then you add in generational. Like, my grandfather was in he was a soldier, and my father was a soldier. I think about a lot of times, Pat Tillman. He played for the Arizona Card. Well, I think it was the Cardinals. I know he was a big star football player, big time football player. When
Right.
the first Desert Storm thing came along, the first thing in Iraq, he's like, my he had a lineage of people in being a soldier, and so he signed up. I think he was a Green Beret, went over there and got killed by friendly fire, no less. I mean, here's an all-American
Oh,
sports person. Yeah, but by friendly fire, it's heartbreaking.
wow.
But many people think they're fighting again for freedom and democracy, and they don't realize who they're enriching, what they're really doing. And I can't fault them because it is what it is. But it's
Right.
just sad. It breaks my heart.
I think that's actually America's inception. Like when you were asking before, I think originally, yes, it was based on a faith thing for the 1600s. You hit 1700s and it already was starting to create its little poison. It was starting to evolve. By the time we hit 1776, everything was like, all right, yep, it's our antichrist country. And people
Hmm.
were fighting because of the propaganda that they created. It's like, oh, we're being oppressed and yada yada. And it's like, if we really still bought that, we would not be being taxed to the extent that we are now.
Yeah.
We would not be so compliant and kneeling our allegiance to such a tyrannical
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
I
Like,
think, and
like you
that's
said, the
why,
Stockholm syndrome has come full. It's redlining now, burning itself out.
yes, and some are over here waking up, and others are like, no, we are the greatest ever because we've evolved, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Land of
no,
the free.
you suck at the whore of Babylon's teat, and you
Yeah.
also kiss the feet of the synagogue of Satan. And you look, and they're
Yeah.
like, what? It's like, yeah, those are things that are in the Bible. Try looking it up if you say, in God we trust, because I don't really think you do. You trust
Yeah.
your government over God, and it shows in your daily character. Your patriotism is more important than Christ or your faith, and that's personally, I'd say, yeah, that's where we're starting to die as a country. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, Trump says God, or he holds up a Bible, or he's printing something. And it's just like, yeah, because you will buy whatever definition of their God is. Like, it's a
Hmm.
symbol you see, but it's like, it's just like the lie of America. You think you were fighting for freedom, but you were actually fighting for a lie because the history books now look good.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it's Star Spangled Banner, star religion that goes back to Babel. So, like, guys, well, the person has to, the Antichrist has to be born in the Middle East. It's like, well, the symbol of the eagle goes to Syria. So when they're saying the whole Syrian thing, they call America the new Babylon. Like at a certain point,
Yeah.
folks, how much do you need until it's
Yeah.
going, oh, okay, that checks out? Because when you start unraveling the symbolism or stuff like our pages, you're going, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And I'm not trying to be like those other pages that just throw out a cryptic number or,
Hmm.
here's a
Yeah. You're
symbol.
you're you're creating clearly creating a path of, hey, let me step by step walk you through this,
Right.
nutrient by nutrient.
Yes. Or as opposed to a doctor, okay, here's your prescription, blah, blah, blah. Hand this to the
Yes.
pharmacist. I'm going, this is the benefits of what this does. This is going to promote this, and this is going to do that. This ingredient, like you just said, nutrient by nutrient. I'm not
Hmm.
telling you just take what I prescribe. I'm telling you what's in the ingredients, which they didn't do in 2020 with certain miracle juice. So
Right.
I think again,
Wild.
socially and symbolism wise, I think yeah, that's a great analogy. to use is like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do, or you're breaking down the news.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you're hearing here, but this is my personal opinion. Because I'm watching your clips all the time now. I'm just like, yes, exactly. I love it.
Yeah. Well, and what's happening is, we're all inspiring and sharing one another's information and resharing it from our own perspective. And it's like 10 teachers teaching the same thing. Different
Yes.
students are going to come online with different teachers. And as this it's so what's the right word, it's so amazing what's happening right now with the social media and with the fact that you have all these independent journalists or teachers out there that are teaching and sharing this knowledge, and there's a huge audience. I mean,
Mhm.
you're experiencing, I'd experience, I see other people experience. I follow another gal, I forget her name right now. She's an older lady. She's got 100 and some odd thousand, and she just shares knowledge and information, and it's inspiring all different generations, people that are like, hey, I'm a human being, you're a human being, look what I found, do you want to know this as well? You might
Right.
help save your life one day.
And that's kind of like what goes right back to 2020 is that it's like I'm not telling you this stuff or showing you this stuff because I think I'm better than you. I'm
Yeah.
showing it because I don't want you to hurt yourself.
Yes, yes,
I want you to make an
absolutely.
informed and logical decision, but you keep listening to your news host or this guy, and it's like, like I had one buddy, he was in the military, and he was saying like I wasn't going to get it, but my military commander or my officer demanded that I get it, so I did. And I was like, so you're telling me, Mr. Land of the Free, soldier, like,
Yeah,
that unless you're commanded, you're like, so you didn't stand on any principles when push came to shove. When you finally had a moment, I was like, well, the insurance I need it for my family. It's like, but I would have been like, on principle, I
yeah,
can't do it. I'll look for another avenue. But to now pass the buck and the excuse, that's the Adamic excuse. That's why I call it Adam. It was the woman that thou gavest me. And then you keep pointing the finger, keep pointing the
yeah,
fingers.
it's her, she's a troublemaker, she's the problem, right?
It becomes the Russian doll scenarios. It's like,
Yeah,
no, who is the originator of this problem? Who should have
yeah,
said something or done something? And I think a lot of people, they like to pass the buck, or like, with the politician, I like to say it was his fault, because you can't say it was me when I got into the
right.
booth, or you
Yeah,
say
like
he's a
my hands.
rhino, he
Hmm.
betrayed me. It's like
Hmm.
he's already in the club. There's no betrayal. It's
Yeah,
the illusion that you bought the lie. The only one you betrayed was yourself. But we
yeah,
don't like to look in a mirror. And that's why when sometimes I'm getting these nasty comments, I'll screenshot it and tag the individual. And then they're like, oh, are you trying to shame? I'm like, no. What I'm showing you is you feel all tough when you're, everybody else bandwagon on you. But when I show my followers what I deal with, suddenly what is that doing? They're over here going, okay, so yeah, I'm holding a
hmm,
mirror up to your own words and how you sound. And
yeah,
it's incredibly mean, it's incredibly spiteful and nasty. And I'm trying to show that this is in our everyday culture. And suddenly, sometimes they shut up or they block me. And I'm like, perfect.
yeah.
Like somebody was telling me Mel Gibson's not in the club, shut up. So I did a whole reel and I tagged him first with his comment.
Good for you.
Over
Yeah,
10,000 views. I'm like, how do you feel right now? You can
yeah,
block me, but they all can find you. And
right.
I think that's something we don't do, is that if you're going to be disruptful in the classroom,
Yeah,
then I'm going to pull you in head of the class. That's kind of how I see it.
yeah,
Um, and only as the purpose of saying, guys, this is what he's saying. Now I'm going to test his theory. How does this sound? And I show a whole bunch of visuals in comparison and show your face alongside of what you just
hmm,
oppositely endorsed. It sounds, you again, and I'm doing that in the sense of I'm not trying to be mean or rude.
mm-mm.
What I'm trying to relay to you is this is how you sound. You're telling me to shut up, or I'm stupid, a conspiracy theorist, and then I show a whole list to back up what I said. It's like, don't call out the lawman unless you're willing to take the silver bullet.
Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you do. You have to say, okay, you get in front of the class and let's hear your spiel. What do you,
Right,
and
right.
we will judge you, like you've judged me. you know. It's
Well,
interesting.
and that's what I loved about the intro of Gunsmoke, or like, when you're watching the old Chuck Connors with the rifleman, choo choo
Hmm.
choo choo choo. But it always like dun 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 dun, and then they had the gun. I was like, that's really cool for me, because it used to be a generation where you insult me, I'm going to stand up for and defend myself. It was a a
Mano a
dueling,
mano. Yeah.
right? It was like I stand by what I say and I can support with what I say. Some people were a little bit more skilled, others were not. there were terms and rules. Like if you go to the death, you just want to get whoever scratches the other one first. And it was a little bit more of a culture, whereas like, woof, I have reverence and I also have a little bit of a fear because this person
Yes.
is willing to back up what they say. Put tongue to seal, and we will see where your words stand. And
Yes.
I think that's kind of where we've lost that. I know Faust wasn't too fond of my support of dueling, but I'm saying dueling in the sense like you don't necessarily have to kill, but I think there has to be a little bit of a reverence of, dude,
Yeah, what's
I'm
at
willing to
stake?
literally, yes, I'm literally to put my blood in the game. I'm literally to put my skin in the game. I'm willing to fight for what I say and I believe in. And I'm not saying like a whole revolution, but it's like you want to challenge the sensei, then you better be
Mm-hmm.
able to swing your sword. And if you
Yes.
think you can do better. And I think that's
Yes.
something in our culture where we don't even promote that. I think there was it Romania somewhere back in the 1800s. There was a bit of a cultural thing where you cannot get married or you can unless you beat the dad of the household or like the young man
Mm.
had to beat the. And I was like, that's kind of I found that interesting because it was
Yeah.
like so again, it doesn't mean kill him. It means
Right.
like you had to beat him in a wrestling match because I want to make sure you can protect and
Yeah. Makes sense.
yeah.
Logical.
And
Yeah.
I was like, it might seem silly, but I was like, that's kind of cool because yeah, because if you're going to be the next guy who's supposed to be taking care of the next generation of life, the
Yeah.
vessel of this, then I want to make sure you're able to stand up for the guy that's been doing it his whole life. And I
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
think
And you
that's
take the
something
torch, so to
right.
speak.
Yes, or the carry on with the
Carry the
baton.
torch. Yeah.
Yeah. And we don't do that in our culture,
No, we do not.
society in general.
Well, and back to what we were talking about with the the movies that portray the hero going up against the establishment. I mean, you see it all the time. Star Wars and the what was the Darth Vader, what was their group called? They had
The
the freedom
Sith,
Fi- well, yeah, and just the
the
whole, what was
rebels,
the rebels versus Darth Vader and all those
empire.
people. Empire,
Yeah.
yeah. And then in the real world, it's almost like flipped. It's like if you're a rebel, hey, you're not, you're something wrong with you because of the majority of people are like aligned with the empire. I'm like, dude, no, you do
I
understand
saw a
this.
meme on that. That's great.
Did you really?
Yeah, there was like a lot of people think they're these guys, the rebels, but they're actually these guys, the Imperials. I
So
was like, yes,
weird.
that
It's so weird. It's so once you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, you've been watching these movies since you were like 5 years old. But
right.
when it comes down to it in the real world, in many different topics, you're aligning with the empire. What are you doing?
Yes. It's like,
It's
do you
so
realize where you're
weird.
like again? it- um, I think a lot of people like when they're saying, "Oh, we're a nationalist country," it's like, "No, we're not a nationalist country." It's like, well, what is nationalism? At its core, it's basically worshiping the leader, worshiping the aspects of said leader and whatever he lays out, and basically saying you are the greatest thing ever. Everybody else is beneath you. If you want to
Yeah.
just get down to the three core tenets, and they're all going, "No, I'm not like that." Well, you're saying we're the greatest country ever, America first, right? Well, I don't mean okay, okay. Let's just put a plug on that. You're
Hmm.
saying he is the greatest guy ever, and he did so much, but the establishment was against him, right?
Hmm.
And anything he says, I see. Oh, he's the greatest ever. He's the goat. He's that. And I'm like, I've never seen that with anybody prior or since.
Yes.
Maybe one or two little fanatical,
Yes.
adamant, passionate supporters, but I've never seen it, especially with social media to the extent that we have today.
Yeah.
It's viral. He makes it like it's a party and it's a theme and
Yeah.
big fancy rallies and such like that. And this is what it's done is had, like you said, a ripple effect in the consciousness. So if you accuse him, then you're against the Fuhrer.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you didn't just go there. Yes, I did. Because you're literally saying there's nothing greater or above him. And that's scary.
Hmm.
Trump's name, one, Donald means world ruler, and
Mm.
Trump means to deceive or
Yes.
one up somebody
Yes.
else. Well, who are you
Yes.
one upping? Again, etymology wise, kind of
Yes.
scary.
It
But
very.
again, guys, when you understand this kind of stuff, I think it really like I told a lady today, my haircut lady, I was
Hmm.
saying, I said, I feel like Monk from the show, the guy with the OCD.
Yes.
But as opposed to germs and such, I'm more so in the symbolism and whatnot. I see something and then I start talking about it. And a lot of people just be like, okay, you're kind of creeping me out. It's just like, I get it. It's a
Yeah.
blessing and a curse. It's cool that I see it. At the same time, it scares a lot of people away.
Yeah.
But when you get to know the
Yes.
person, like we see in the show, you kind of sympathize with the poor guy. because you
Right.
understand the trauma with Trudy and all the stuff that was going on that made him the way he is.
Hmm.
And again, I went through trauma, but it got me to the point where I'm at now, whereas like I'm tired of people lying to other people.
Yeah.
That was like my whole
Yeah.
upbringing in a nutshell. And when 2020 hit, that was the final nail in the coffin of like, okay, that's it. Roll up my sleeves and I'm gonna say something. And look where it is now, you know?
Well, and that's the thing. And I think about that same thing too, because I don't think about it too much, but I am aware of it,
Hmm.
how quote unquote weird I must look to be talking about these things and investigating these things when
Right,
some other people, and maybe I do look like I'm either on the spectrum or I've got a screw loose, but I'm like, I don't care. I know what I know.
right.
And I know my heart and I know what I'm on to. And I'm also willing to admit that, I could be wrong. I'm also willing
Yes.
to throw that out there. I mean, it could be, but what it is if live by the sword, die by the sword. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I will own it.
Yes.
But right now, this feels with every fiber of my being that these things are going on, and this is what I'm called to speak about. And it seems like that's kind of where you're at too.
I
I'm
love the way
moving
you put that.
forward without what you think of me is not going to deter me, but I'm from what I'm doing.
Right. It's like, well, you might again. What was it? I think they put a fact check on it when I posted it. Um, but I think it was like when the conversation's being lost, slander becomes the next tactic of the loser. And
Mm,
I got a fact check on that. I was like, well, why don't you first fix the internet that already has it all over the place, as opposed to going after me when I posted the one time? It's like, okay. But I think that's honestly what it's come down to is they start insulting your character as opposed to going after the
the
what do you call it?
content.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect word. See, yes.
Mhm.
So as opposed to going after the content or examining the texts, I did some kind of test thing, and I'm very much of a textualist.
I
I
see that. Yes.
let's what does the paper say? What does the book say? The history, and I think that's kind of where the scribe aspect in me kicks into play. It's like, okay, let's go get the books, and I'm opening the books. I'm telling you what's in the books, and people are going, "That's not true," but it's already written, and we're seeing a reflection or an imitation being replicated right now.
Mhm.
And as opposed for them picking that up, they over here are like, oh, you're just somebody clicking something off of Google and copying pasting. And I'm like, no, I
Mhm.
invest, I deep dive. Like you said, I'm very much of a voracious reader. I like to cross examine. Sometimes I'll be like, that's interesting. And then I'll buy like six other books because I'm an addict like that.
Yeah,
I need
clearly.
confirmation or an expounding way. So when I go into an argument or something like that, I'm not just going, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Send me in, coach,
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's like a mind needs book, like a sword needs a whetstone,
Yes.
like the Tyrion
Yes.
Lannister put it.
Knowledge sharpens knowledge, right?
Yes.
So to speak.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of us are doing that. And again, even when you go to colleges and stuff like that, what is like, sophist and you get sophomore, wise fool, so the etymology is already there. Is a lot of times we get people that are wise fools and they never
Hmm.
graduate after that
Yeah.
because they think they already know it all, even though they're only 2 years into the thing. Whereas there's other times where I'm watching something and I'm like, guys, you sound like you're in fifth grade in comparison to where I'm at.
Yeah.
And it's not to down them, but it makes me chuckle where it's like we could go so much further right now. But like you said, there's tier levels, and that's why there's different aspects of who you find as you're going on your journey trying to find the truth, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and one of the other things that really prompted me to go on this journey of really looking out at friends and family and general society and in general and saying, you know what, I'm going to start speaking what's in my heart. What was really
Yes.
what happened in 2020, I'm like, no, no, no,
Mm,
no. You do what you want to do. They crossed the line with me, and now I won't ever get off this soapbox, so to speak.
right.
I'm going to speak
Correct.
forever now because I know if it not if or not yeah, not if, but when they do it again, it'll be far worse, and they will convince, have more mass control and more of this brainwashing going on. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to be unprepared in that fight, no matter what. So I just keep speaking about it, and I don't think people who believe the narrative and who went along with it really understand the level of trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder that it
Yes.
happened. Like I can't go through that again. Like we talked about this prior. Like I'm looking in the world, where's the country that's the least indoctrinated, where there are chips in play, pieces in play in the world, and I'm not going to stop talking about it because it was so scary.
Yeah.
I don't live in fear, but it was
Right.
weird. you know did you feel that way too? Is that what did that spur you on a little bit, what happened in 2020, or did it not affect you like it affected me?
Well, I think we touched on it a little bit last time, but yeah, it really just made me angry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing everybody like, well, I don't know if this is biblical. I've never seen anything like this in my life before. And at the same time, I'm seeing people putting literally tape down for like how far you can go and this thing and
Yeah.
that thing. And I'm like, and then I did a whole post on it. I think it was in 21, but I was
Mm-hmm.
like the history of masks in general. Like you have the burqa mask, you have the masks as in a bandit, you have a mask as in the hero or the anti-hero individual, and usually masks have never had a good connotation
That's a
affiliated with
good
them.
point.
And
Good
and
point.
they go back to Dionysus, which is an equivalent of Nimrod, or
Mm-hmm.
how he saw himself, another one of the variations of an avatar. And I think it's funny because again, Trump's last name stems from triumph, which was a phrase used in parades to Dionysus, the masked
Wow.
god of theater. And
Wow.
when again, I'm the god of the vaccine, or oh, sorry, did
Mm-hmm.
I say god?
Warps.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what it's come down to, where I was like, even voting in 2020, that was the last time we were going to vote, but it felt so
Mm-hmm.
wrong. I was
Yeah.
standing in line, but it felt I literally felt, what's the word? Like I felt like I was deteriorating inside.
Did
If it,
you?
like as an empath, if it felt like I'm going through emotion, but I was attuned to it. It was like
Mm-hmm.
I'm going through the motion, but there is like several levels where my conscience and my gut and my spirit was saying this. There's something off with this.
Yeah. Sounds like you
I
were
still
more awake than I was at the time. I was still somewhat in the, right, left, good, bad thing. But yeah, that's an
right.
interesting. I feel more so that way now
Yeah.
as I walk my journey. But so you were feeling that back in 2020.
I think that the beginning of the evolving aspect was happening. I think like, even some of my posts would be like, okay, I was still a little bit, because I could definitely see like this is crazy that we voted for the absolute guy, but now I'm seeing, okay, this makes a lot more sense because it's a play,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm understanding now how the
Theater.
characters all, yes, exactly. And again, I'm willing to admit that I write that all the time, even though I get the haha
Mm-hmm.
mood. I'm like, guys, I voted for the guy twice.
I did
You want to
too.
go check the records?
Yeah.
But now I'm at the point where I'm like, holy crap, now that I've unraveled all this
Me
other
too.
stuff, I understand
Mm-hmm.
context. I'm not stupid anymore. You can too partake in what I've discovered, but they're over here
Right.
saying no, it's only him. And so I
Yeah,
think
he's gonna
that's
save us, so to speak,
right,
right?
right. And I'm over here like, no. And again, I can claim ignorance because the first time I voted was 2016, and I was only because I was eligible finally. And the second time was that one, but again, the second time didn't even feel right. The
Yeah.
first time it was like definitely not Hillary.
Yeah.
I'm not that
Yeah.
dumb of a kid where I was just
Yeah.
gonna, but it was like, and even the next morning I woke up, I'm just like, God, please let it not be Hillary, because
Yeah,
I'm
me
thinking in
neither.
my head, like, I already know she's got a body bag count of like
Oh,
52,
yeah.
57, at least that are known.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of where I was at. And it didn't feel bad at the time because, again, I'm going through. I think people can't understand the process. As you evolve, you can have moments of saying, "I've grown." It's okay. You snipped off some of the stuff that was, it's like grooming. What are those little bonsai trees or whatever they call those?
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Yeah.
snip off the little hedge, and you have to and then it starts refining. It starts looking a little bit better. And I admit that. I'm like a clay. It's a constant evolving of how I see society in general. I've always been more like libertarian centrist viewed. I've always been very in the middle, and that's just my personality. That's not been influenced by this side or that side. My parents didn't even bother into the whole thing. This is just how I evolved, and now I'm getting where I'm like, oh, tired of people lying to you, pulling you in this far direction. It's like watching somebody playing the game of pull the rope. And you have the mud pit in the center.
Yes.
You have the little flag, and this side saying this was the better side, and this one's saying that's the better side. And I'm in the middle going, okay, I'm gonna do the Gregorian knot of Alexander the Great and cut it right down the middle. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
some people, they're all saying, what are you doing? You'll destroy the system. And again, Klaus Schwab doesn't like libertarians. He said that himself. And
Right.
then you have the other aspects where people are going, nobody's done that before.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I want to follow you. And again, I don't say that as in I'm great. I'm just saying they're like, finally, somebody that's speaking against both sides and seems
Yeah.
to get it. And I think
Yeah.
that's what people appreciate about our kind of our platforms and perspectives is that we're willing to be the middle guy of saying, I'll take all the heat, I'll break it down for you.
Yes.
And the only, again, I think we didn't talk about that yet, but like with the support aspect, you guys show us the support, we
Yes.
can create more for you.
Yeah. Well, and we did touch on that a little bit in the first conversation in the sense that
Yeah.
it is incredibly time consuming and it is and as we all know, going out and gathering the raw information, cooking it, so to speak, distilling it, preparing it, presenting it, it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
And it's akin to what the Hollywood media machine does. They have entire groups of people and departments that are making this content, putting it in front of people. And I don't think people understand that the small content creator, the amount of time investment and emotional energy put in it's a thing, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, good point.
I think we mentioned it after post or our conversation last time is
Potentially, yeah.
that a lot of people for ministry, because I get these comments all the time, so I'll refer them to this video. But I get this comment all the time of if you're really doing Yahweh's work, you wouldn't be asking for money, just food for thought, or they're sending me
Do
these stupid
you
little messages, and I'm like, I've written this out 1,000 times before, but folks, this is for you. I might take a clip off of this if you don't mind,
do
but
it? Yeah.
this is for you. I cashed in my 401k. I took all of my savings. I'm now down to like $2,000 in my bank account. If you really want to know, I'm being absolutely honest. And why? Because I thought this was worth it. I felt God laying out on my heart. It's just, you know what, Brandon? You're not going to live to see the end of to collect. You're not going to collect. The chips are already, you see it. So why are you putting money into that? Put money into something that can actually feed people. So I did. I took a leap of faith. And in exchange, what do I get? No, you shouldn't be asking for money. And I'm asking for $5. I'm not asking for 100. I'm not asking for 300. I'm not asking for 1,000. I don't want you to give me my whole life savings like I've seen John Oliver do a breakdown with some radical preacher. I'm asking for $5. And if you're that stingy, and the guy who wrote this comment, ironically enough, had tattoo sleeves all the way up and down. And I
Really?
showed it to my buddy who's got a Navy background. He says, dude, that's at least $6,000 on his arms. I'm like,
Yeah.
and he's telling me you shouldn't be asking for money or you shouldn't be. And again, folks, I don't believe in the tithing aspect, but if you believe in the Paul's missionary journey, like I see it, we're digital missionaries. If you believe in that, $5 goes a long way when 300 people did that. If it was more, cool. But at the end of
Yeah.
the day, that's how much I would need. So again, I'm just laying that out. I think people are still focused in the old mindset that you have to give to the church and the priest, blah, blah. But if 2020
Right.
didn't teach you anything, if your church was already getting into the mindset or they're still doing Ishtar cakes, like mine, like I pointed out with
I
Easter,
saw that.
if they're still doing that, if they're still dabbling in all this
Mm.
Gnosticism in the church or bringing in a Christmas tree, bringing in a wreath, whereas you're seeing my own reputation, I'm willing to put everything on the line. Come on, folks.
Yeah.
I let the testimony speak of whether you should support or not. That's what I would advise.
Yeah, and along those lines, what I also see as a potential for people to do is if you paint it like this, people really get it. Okay,
Yeah.
you're sending $7 to Netflix or $8 a month to Hulu or whatever. You're supporting the establishment system there, and
Hmm.
by doing that, you are enriching them in order to continue to indoctrinate you and coerce
Right.
you and your children. Blah 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 blah. Do you want to unplug from that system and plug into a more holistic
Fruitful.
system, a more fruitful, a more beneficial system? The choice is yours. Do what you want to do. I've already unplugged from the Netflix. I mean, I haven't
Yes.
been plugged into them a long time. I was at some point in time, though. I've
Right.
unplugged from there. I'm no longer watching movies coming out of Hollywood. I don't, mainstream studios. I don't care whether they're supposedly a Christian movie or not. I don't
Right.
care. I know where it comes from.
Hmm.
And I know what they're about, and I know what they want to do to the world and they want to do to people. So, I mean, telling people, hey, you can plug your resources or your chip in wherever you want to do it and support the people and businesses in this world, that is your choice. Just choose
Right.
wisely, my friends, because the bad people, they're going to use your money against you in some way, shape, or form at a high level. you know.
Right, like even Amazon,
Oh
Amazon.
yeah.
Like guys, I'm getting rid of mine next month. And again, I was doing it mainly to get books, get this, but I'm pretty much topped off. I don't need the Prime aspect
Yeah.
anymore. I'm good. I don't see anything on there worthwhile of watching. I don't have time to invest at that anymore because I
Likewise.
read so much.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it's culling, culling, culling. Why? Because I'd like to put more energy and focus. Like, so when somebody does send me money, I was like, okay, here's several books. Now I can buy it. Thank you, follower. That's how I
Hmm.
genuinely see a donation. Or I'm able to keep a roof over my head, or I don't have to work overtime if I had to get a part-time. I don't have to put so much into overtime because I'm able to now focus and come back home and do this because of the support.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, you might think, oh, it's only $5, only $10. It's like, do you
Hmm.
know how much that means if several people
Right.
do that?
Multiplied. Well, and that's how these large, streaming companies do. They multiply the seven times, millions, and then there's how they make all their content. It's
Yes.
so interesting to me as I go on this journey of really wanting the truth and waking up to what's going on and wanting to know where the deception is. I see, because they're definitely, all of these streaming companies are definitely going all in on, let's make all these different new series. Let's make all, and some of them are just straight up wacky, like this
Or
invasion,
reboots.
and they're the level of all inness with their distraction is huge, and that tells you something. They're having to try to spin the machine up faster to keep people entertained and distracted, but all of them are
Yes.
spinning out content like crazy, and it is capturing many people's attention,
Mhm.
and stealing. I look at it as stealing time, stealing vital life energy and life force. I mean, you
Yes.
only got X number of years on the planet, folks. That is watching every episode of Breaking Bad on your vision board. It was never on mine. you know but people get seduced.
I love the way you phrase that, seduced. Yes. And yeah, and they invest so much time and energy. And I'm chuckling because as we stated before, as a creator, I would like to do something new or look at it from a different perspective. And a lot of the stuff I'm seeing is reboots because again,
Yes.
originality is no longer there.
Mm-mm.
Creating like again, like the concept I would pitch is medieval, which is already a huge genre in and of itself, but to throw the steampunk aspect or them versing each other, what is it? And then I'm also creating not the this is the good guy, the empire, these are the rebels. I'm creating the this is a per individual story. Everybody's a bad guy if you go by the institution, but when you break it down to per individual character, you're going, whoa, this
Mm.
is interesting. This is now making me think. Yeah, and a lot of the programs you get now, it's it's flashy, it's CGI, it's
Yes.
superficial. It's like your toilet paper.
It's bright shiny object. It's like, okay,
Shimmering,
squirrel, one big haze look squirrel over the screen for an hour and a half. Ugh.
glazed donut eyes. Yeah,
Glazed donut eyes, yes. Well, and they, I think that they're doing that because they've got some people are so wound up so tight and
yeah.
so on the Pavlov dog scenario, like bell dings, cookie, bell, cookie, bell, cookie. That's why I can't even watch. I can't. It's been a long time. I can't watch mainstream news. I don't. None of the mainstream sitcoms with the laugh track. It actually is like fingernails on a chalkboard. I'm like, oh, I can't do it. It's like bell,
Like
ding,
Saturday Night
ding.
Live.
Yeah,
They're not even
yes.
funny anymore.
No,
They're
and they
just
haven't been for a
throwing
long time.
right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I gravitate to like older shows or shows that
Yes.
have that premise. Like I love Foyle's War. It's something that gets me back into the older times, the old mindset,
Mm-hmm.
and even the way I dress. It's vintage and such.
Mm-hmm.
But like you were saying with the Pavlov dogs, it says that's what they have us do with every single scenario now. It's like, oh, some black guy got killed. All the liberals go crazy. All the
They get
white, right,
mad.
right.
Yeah.
All
Or
the
white guy,
Republicans
whatever.
get mad when the Mexicans come across the border, but then they
Yeah.
love it when they have their produce. So it's
Yeah. I
so
know.
like you said, it's the Pavlov dog effect where societally wise, they make us reactive, they make us
Mm-hmm.
impulsive. It's like this annoys you. Yeah, it does.
Right.
I think like I said with the Bill Burr thing, it's like, oh, I didn't realize every time I was having a temper tantrum that the dog was picking off of that, so he'd start shaking up around his toy and stuff like that and get upset. That's what
Yeah.
they're doing with us.
Yeah.
Oh, Mexicans are coming. This is our country. Yada yada
Yeah.
yada. So when I write a comment like, "Oh, I think the Indians were thinking that when they were first landing on our shores, we
Yeah.
should build a wall," they're over there like,
Yeah.
"Oh, they lost. It was fair." And I was like,
Well,
You
It's
know,
funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I made a joke about that, a video about that, about people coming in, and and in hindsight, I looked at it because it triggered a lot of people. Some were not
yeah.
triggered, but it triggered a lot of people. And then as a creator, I reflect upon that and go, okay,
Hmm.
let me watch this again with the fresh eyes. And I use the term, they're coming over here to replace us. And I'm like, oh shit, what I meant to say was it appears that our government, that many Americans know our government is completely unresponsive and they don't work for us anymore because they're not doing what we want them to do. They're
Right.
sending money overseas. They're doing this and this. So as I was reflecting on this, that was my intention. But it's funny, Brandon, when you use
The
certain
execution.
words,
Right.
execution, yeah, and that's one thing that even though I was reflecting on it, I was kind of looking at myself going, okay, this is how tense we are in the world, not only in America, but
Yes.
this is how fragile people are. Their fuse is so short. It's like if you have a funny look in your eye, or if you say a thing, you're going to trigger the left, and then you're going to trigger the
Yes.
right. It's a very it's a very let's shall I say treacherous path to walk because you one wrong step and you are sliced and die.
And that's what I love about
You know.
satirist comedians, or like somebody like a Diogenes.
Hmm.
He was not afraid to just like,
You have to be
I'm willing
bold.
to take the brunt of whatever you're
Yeah.
going to insult and throw at me. And
Yes.
it like, guys, you got to admit, the person that's a satirist, they got the biggest guts and the biggest
Oh, yes.
eels in the
Yes.
world. They have the cojones, because
Yes.
you say I'm against all y'all, and suddenly both sides start throwing rocks at you. It's not.
Yes.
It's like they were throwing at each
Yeah.
other. Then you're just like, you're all wrong.
Attack,
It's,
charge,
yeah,
Oh,
and
it's
it's
wild.
like, do you see? You just found commonality because I'm different from both of you, and
Yes.
you united on that. And it's terrifying, that we've come to that conclusion where if you are against the system or the group, the party,
Hmm.
of the party, for the party, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's just a hair trigger off of submitting to full on communism,
Right.
because you
Oh,
have to support
yeah.
the system of the leader of and I think that's what's becoming now into our politics, is you have to support the party, the politician, and this, and then that's it. And it's
Yeah.
full allegiance. And this is what I think the Soviet leader, and again, they're trying to censor this one all over the place, but he was
Mm.
stating the 10 things that they'll implement in America, and eventually you guys won't even realize that you'll be communists, and it'll be like, oh, it's here, guys.
Yes. Yeah. We're well
That's
on our,
here.
we're right on the brink, right near the end.
Oh yeah, and what was it? The defector, Yuri Bezmenov or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. I love
And
that
I says,
guy.
I'm not seeing that with liberals. I'm seeing that more with Republicans.
Yeah.
Sadly, because I'm
Yeah.
showing it to your face, and you're telling me the leader is still better. And I'm like, that's the
Yeah.
problem. The liberals just clueless. I get it. The Republican, you're claiming you stand on some values and standards, but I'm showing you point blank, this guy is of them, and you're saying no.
Yeah. There's an inability to look at it. And I think I when I started my journey, I was more afraid of liberal minded people because I felt they were very, and they would attack, and like if you get triggered. But now it's kind of flipped, and I'm also almost more afraid to share anything critical of Donald Trump because I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are gonna skin me
Crucify me.
alive, crucify me. And but what it comes down to is um am I willing to speak my mind in an era of, okay, if you guys are going to go straight crazy and believe the establishment in 2020, I'm speaking my mind right now because of
Right.
you've already shown me where you stand. I'm not going out like this,
Right.
whatever may be, you know.
It's like this might be the path and choice and the world and culture that you want, but not for me. And I
Yeah.
think that terrifies people, especially when cult culture. This is
Hmm.
all you've been told, and you believe in. Your
Yeah.
patriotism has become the kingdom of
Yeah.
heaven. That's the scary part. And I think maybe that's even the reason why they chose that title for the movie Kingdom of Heaven,
I don't
because
doubt it.
everybody's focused on the city. They're focused on the location. They're like, this has to
Hmm.
be holy. And it's like, no, is you lay not your treasures on the things of this world, but lay them up in heaven. And I think people, they don't know how to do that. They don't see it. They can't comprehend it. That's what faith is. I
Yes.
have a security and a peace. Like I told somebody, I said, I could draw my last breath and I'm happy, because I feel like I've done everything. I'm
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
You've pursued truth. You've in an
Yes.
earnest way, and walked your own path, being guided by God and on this inspiration. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all you can do in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
that's doing the thing, that's doing the work.
And I'm tired. Like I told this to people, is we're not supposed to um feel in love with this world. I think
Mm,
that's honestly, spiritually speaking, we're supposed to be tired. We're supposed to be exhausted.
yeah,
Not to the extent where we're burned out, but I think we're supposed to be saying there's got to be something better. And I have
yeah.
faith and security that what comes next is going to be 1,000 times better than this. And they were even saying, statistically speaking, those who had a religion or faith did fared a lot better in the military than those who were atheists or agnostics. They were
Mm,
doing a statistical study. And I think spiritually speaking, that's the same thing, is that if you have a faith, you have an end goal and vision, you don't worry about it
yeah.
because you have a security and a sense of security, like you were saying. People are
Hmm.
putting their security in money, monetary, retirement, 401k, and whereas I'm over here going, I did the best I could. I fed as many
Hmm.
as I could. I tried to bring them in, warm their hands by the fire,
Yeah.
and give them a book to read. And some of them laughed at me. Some of them threw the food back in my face like a baby. And others said, thank you. They gave me an embrace. And then they put on their clothes and went forth and did likewise. That's kind of what we've come down to now, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, as it does feel like it, we're I feel like you in this perception of the world that I'm like, yeah, we're never going back. Definitely seems like there's a path forward that does feel biblical. It does feel like there's some end game things going on that's happening in the world. One of the things that I've noticed, and you say it a little bit with you saw it a little bit with Obama, is like
Mm,
the establishment, they were throwing characters in front of us. Well, how about this guy? Well, how about this gal? How about this guy? Because a lot of people woke up, a lot of people on the left woke up when Obama came on the scene, and they're like, okay, here's this guy's really what you want.
right.
We've molded and crafted him. His persona is the way he speaks, and then people got pissed off on the left. Some people did when he bailed out Wall Street again, and they're like, hey, but that's not what you're supposed. And they woke up and they're like, oh, our guy isn't really our guy.
Some of them did, and then there's other ones that
Some
are
of them
literally
did.
following him like a little cult. Like that's the
Yes.
thing, guys. It for both of them, like you just said, they've been programmed into thinking, "Oh, this is my guy.
Yeah.
He's standing for me." And I think John Oliver did a great breakdown where he was showing at a rally for Obama, and Hillary was speaking, I think, at it or whatever, or vice versa. It was a Hillary thing, and Obama spoke at it, and they were showing flags and such like that. And that was the Democrat side. Then he went over to the other one. And you're just like, and you didn't see that there. And they're supposed to be the gung ho flag carriers, stuff like that. Says you would
Yeah.
almost think it was a revolt, and I'm like, yeah, because
Yeah.
they are dictating how we
Yeah.
act. And I'm not going Matrix as in everything is scripted, everything we say, blah, blah, blah. No, you still have the ability and gift of freedom of choice.
Yeah.
That's all on you. There is no, oh, so this divine thing chose your path and blah blah blah, and you have a no. There is, you have a moment, you have several moments where you can always take an exit off the highway and go down the country road. It might be a little bit longer, but it's narrow, it's straight, and it's
Hmm.
consistent. You know where you're going. Whereas everybody else is saying the highway is the fast highway yeah,
Hmm.
because everybody wants to go fast. They citizen, like I said, fast thinking, fast
Good point.
meditation, and that's where they in that sense, if you are buying the lie, the politics, you are buying of the matrix. You buy of the Bible, the living word of the word became flesh. You emulate that, you start becoming the light. You start being, and why? Because people are looking for an oasis in all this
Yeah.
crazy chaos in the world. Suddenly you're going, you're just an average Joe. Yeah, you're not a politician or a celeb, but you're cool.
Hmm.
I guess if you think so. And the reason I am is because of this. And I think that's why you get the verse in First Peter 3:15 is that people ask of the faith that is within you. It was noticeable back then. It was so noticeable that it was radically converting the culture. And everybody's like, we're losing our idol business. We're losing our influence in politics. Why? Because this philosophy, faith of Christianity came along, and they came to the point where they're like, Paul, what the hell? You want to
Yeah.
come up here to the philosopher's mountain and tell us some stuff because we are like we see it, but we don't understand it. Break it down for us. And I think that's
Hmm.
what platforms like us are doing these days. I like I said, genuinely see this as missionary. I may not be able to travel to you but I'm still trying to reach you
Yeah,
with
that's what it
something.
is. Well, and that's what's happening. I think, it used to be whether you're giving a speech or whether you're a comedian or a rock band or a performer,
Right.
you got to go on tour. But now it's like you sit in your home and you virtually tour around these all over the world. Whoever wants to watch you can watch you. And
Right.
that it's a beautiful thing,
It is. And
it's
again,
a lot easier
it's cheaper than a ticket.
and way cheaper than a ticket.
Yes.
100%.
It's way
Mm-hmm.
cheaper than a ticket. And it's also where you make that choice. And again, as I've told people, don't believe me. I'm
Mm-hmm.
showing you where I'm getting it. I'm recommending some books of where I've gotten it. I'm showing you how to feed yourself because I want you to evolve on your own path and journey. Maybe you'll find something a little bit more that I've never even heard of. Cool. That's what a teacher's supposed
Yeah.
to do. I planted some seeds and you outdo the master. I would be fine with that.
Yeah.
And I think what people don't understand is that you're looking at the news host so much to the point that you idolize them because you love their words and rhetoric so much, or you love the knowledge of like a Billy Carson or something like that, that you
Mm-hmm.
yourself don't want to dig. You're just like, this guy
Yeah.
knows his stuff, and I watch all of his stuff. I don't care if you watch all of my stuff. I am just recommending it because I get so many questions. I said, you might be 2, 3 hours, but guess what? At the end, you're going to be, whew, I need to watch that
Mm-hmm.
again. Good.
Yeah.
Because that means I was actually giving you something and not a word salad where I was like, and today's news, we got this going on. And that's what I hear
Yeah.
with Russell. It does. I'm like, you're not giving me anything. You're
No.
giving me all this blah, 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 blah.
Master. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's like,
master of word salad. Yeah,
yes, a
and
master
I,
chef.
yeah, and I used to like him, and as
Same.
I've become more aware. Yeah, I mean, one of my hero person. I'm like, oh yeah, his personality, etc. But as I go on my journey, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, got it.
Right.
Um, let's as we get close to wrapping up here, let's talk about
Yeah.
two topics. First one I want to ask you about is there anyone good on the scene? And then let's close with some solutions, some things people
Sure.
can do. What you share a lot of like celebrities and people in Hollywood that are clearly part of the
System.
establishment, the
Right.
system. Is there anyone good out there that you follow that has somewhat of a status and a platform?
Kind of scared to say that because then, like, what, two
Well, and
years,
yeah,
2 months
if
down the
you
road,
well,
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, whatever you feel comfortable with,
yeah, I would say from my personal standpoint on that is I would not endorse anybody particularly, um, celebrity wise or Hollywood wise. There's a few that I suspect are not in the club. I would say like a John Bernthal and like Bridget Mendler and stuff like that because you see their personal lives, you see some of the stories. Like Bernthal came forward and he was talking against what's his name, the guy that was on House of Cards.
Oh, Kevin Spacey.
Yes, thank you. He called out the Kevin Spacey thing on a podcast. So I was kind of just chuckling because personally I'm sensing like real deal. You can kind of sense that. You can kind of gauge that off of their profile, what they're posting, what they're who they
Yeah,
stand
using
for.
your
Granted,
discernment.
right. But granted, he follows somebody like Jake Paul, so I'm kind of like, but again, some people can be deceived because they're not aware or they didn't dig as deep. So I think that's something that people need to understand is that again, I just pitch those. Don't take me 100% because I could be proven wrong and so I didn't see a photo or something like that. I'm just throwing that out because, like you said,
Yeah, where you're
using
at right now, based on what you know, and
discernment.
that's all we can accept for. That's all we can accept for people is like, hey, because as we know, I mean, I sometimes my view of the world change on a weekly basis, or my view of a person, or my view of a situation. So
Correct.
fair, yeah, fair.
And I think you're absolutely right. Is yes, use discernment. Be willing to evolve and adapt your previous thought if it so comes along and you're provided with new information. Is anybody good? Well, there's none good. No, not one. No, none's righteous. No, not one. I think it says in
Well
Romans.
said.
And I think, like, even myself, even yourself,
Yeah,
we all got
likewise.
flaws.
Hmm.
And I think it's good to just say, I'm not going to celebritify fanatic fan. That's where it comes from, fanatic. Um, I'm not going to worship them to the point that I think that they're absolved of all flaws.
Good
Um,
point.
I think that's the biggest thing to consider because while I would like to have somebody to look up to, try to do it yourself. Like I said,
Yeah,
start the
yeah.
war from
Look up to
here.
yourself and or Jesus, right?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but I'm saying look to yourself as in start emulating what
Yeah,
Christ did. That's what I'm
yeah,
trying to say when look to yourself, not ascending or anything. I'm just
right.
clarifying. But yeah, I say look to yourself as in Stop focusing on what somebody else could be, potentially be, or what you would like them to be, and start saying, what can I do? What can I contribute? What can I change and cultivate within my own life? How can I get down and wash somebody else's feet? How can I build that bridge into somebody else's life and help them evolve, grow, and nurture? Sure if
Well
that
said.
answers the question, but I think
It
that's kind of where
does.
I'm personally at.
Well said. Well said. So now, solutions. What can people be doing to be a part of the solution here in
Mm-hmm.
the physical plane?
Personally, I would highly advise, um, because I have a lot of people saying like my husband's not into it or my wife's really doing this and I don't know how to like convey this, or and that's what I try to do with my posts is not just throw out some word salad or some picture visuals and you're not getting any meat. I'm trying to create an inscription, which some people don't read. But if you read
No.
the inscription, I'm trying to break like the Easter thing. Some people are saying thank you because that simplified it in a couple paragraphs.
Yeah.
And then if I do deep dive into the podcast, I get a well ton more added to that. Um, but I think with where I was going with all of that,
Well, you were saying sometimes husband or a wife may not
yeah. Oh,
have
sorry.
the
Yes. Thank you. I think even a coworker invite them over. Not don't like when I'm writing the inscriptions, I'm trying to think of them as an impromptu devotional. I don't think folks get that. So you literally can be in the break room and be like, whoa, this is crazy. And then somebody's going, obviously, what are you talking about? And if you're close
Mhm.
enough, and be like, well, I'm seeing this. That's kind of weird. Apparently that connects to this and this. Do you ever, oh yeah, I had a grandfather that was a Mason. Well, you aware that they do this? And he's like, what? I'm trying to create the you can have that everyday conversation with somebody and it's not taboo. It's not I don't want to talk about that because then you have a foundation laid where you can breach the topic on tougher topics every single time. You can start pressing what's your thoughts on what's going on in Gaza? What's your thoughts with this particular politician and what he just said tonight on a debate or something like that? And not as in you're trying to align with said polity, but you're trying as a Christian. Personally, I would suggest it from a Christian perspective, is that you're trying to just poke the questions of what could we be doing, having those conversations first and foremost, and revealing these tough conversations, breaching it. So sit down, like if the wife say we need to at least do this once or twice a week. I'm not trying to make it, hard, toxic, but sit down, you have coffee in the morning together, something like that. It's like, okay, we're gonna on Friday night, um, before we, have fun, we're
Yeah,
gonna
before we
sit down.
watch an entertainment show or
Yeah,
something, we're going to talk
yeah,
about these things in this way.
and yeah, it's like an hour or two, and then we're gonna just kick back. We're gonna relax, enjoy the rest of the night, and then maybe we can recap again.
Hmm.
Make it fun or make it a
Yeah.
little bit of a routine. One like if you did it 4 times a month, every Friday, every
Yeah.
Saturday, whatever, or we go out to breakfast and or we watch something last night. We said we're going to talk about it tomorrow, something like that. I
Yeah.
think having the conversations, watching a podcast or reading an inscription is prompting those conversations into our everyday society because they already do that when you're listening to a news host. And then you'll be like, oh, did you see what
I
Daily Wire said?
know.
Did you hear what this guy said? Or
Yeah.
you quote the same thing.
Reiterating what the establishment
Yes.
wants you to talk about.
But
Yeah.
instead, watch something and then
Yeah.
talk about what you just watched. I think that
Yeah.
was something originally with Focus on the Family movies. They used to
Hmm.
have on the back of the DVD or VHS, whatever, 8 questions to ask your kid. What's your thoughts on what this character went through?
Hmm.
And I really liked that originally. Now they've kind of gone a little cuckoo and
Have
veered
they?
into the Hollywood.
Of
But
course.
but in the 90s, early 2000s, they were still doing. I'm like, that's interesting. As a kid, I was always looking at the thing like, oh, that's actually an interesting question, because then it makes you look at the plot a little bit more. It's just like when you were reading and you're doing a book report. What did you glean from this? And
Hmm.
cite some passages as to why you thought this was blah blah blah. Start doing that with the content podcasts, posts, whatever you're reading, and bring that into your everyday society. Because a lot of times I'm going to church and I'm like, if you just read this or you're listening to me, and what I've been able to contribute to this field, we would not be doing paganism. But then you're
Right.
bashing me for digging into this field, but I'm digging into it so we don't become like that full throttle.
So wild. Yeah.
It
It's
is, and it's funny because when I was talking to one of the deacons, he was going, "Oh, that goes into Gnosticism and blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "And yet downstairs, your wife's name's on this thing for pancakes to Ishtar," because
Well, I mean, people are, it's so integrated with, like you say, whether it's church or who they are, or their,
Right.
their view of the world. To extricate that, it can be sometimes impossible. Depending on the person, like how bad do you want it? If you don't want it at all, continue your ways. I'm not gonna pull it out of you. You make
Right.
the choice.
And again,
Just want
that
to
goes
show you
back
what you're doing.
to the verse to Joshua. He was like, "As is, you guys do what you want, but as for me and my house, will serve the Lord."
For
Starts it.
sure.
Start setting some standards. And again, I don't see the church building as God's house. I see where every one of us are. The building's a luxury we have. It is not a necessity because if He indwells you, wherever we are, two or more in His midst, then so I think a lot of people don't understand that. And again, take to heart the verse in Hosea. He's like, you won't be his high priest if you reject knowledge. If you're not having these conversations, you're not calling the own things. Like a lot of people will bash, oh, what's going on in Hollywood? And that's named after the Druids. And yet you bring a tree into your house and it evolves from the same thing. It's no better. I don't want you to throw a stone at them. And then when you turn around, you're like, okay, now to get back to my unwrapping my presents.
Yeah.
It's kind of what
Now
I'm
back to
seeing it
me, right?
as.
Now, what am I
Right.
going to get? I hope I get something good stuff.
Right.
Wild. Yeah. Right. Awesome. Those are good solutions. And I agree with you. I've been bringing it back, taking control of the conversation and like, how do you want
Yes.
to be in the world? What do you want to do in the world? You're going to be talking about positive things, good things, intelligent things, or you just want to regurgitate whatever, Yeah,
Feel
that's a
good
good
salads. Yeah.
feel good salad. Yeah, what everyone else is going to be talking about. And I see a lot of people unplugging from, like I said, the entertainment industry and all the stuff that we've been told, or hey, this is what you want to watch, which is encouraging.
Right. Right.
Before we wrap up, tell people again where they can find you on all the places around the web.
Sure. Basically, Man a Daily podcast, both YouTube and Rumble. I'd refer to Rumble for a lot more of this kind of stuff for interviews and such like that, and occasional ones that aren't controversial. YouTube, and then Krollology, like my name you see here on the screen. Just add ology lower underscore 101. Should be able to find me unless they're censoring me again, which they do every so often.
Yeah,
But yeah, you can add that in the show notes or whatever.
I will.
And then you on Patreon, Man and Daily Podcast, Cash App, if you guys want to find me or donate, like we were talking about before. Um,
Absolutely.
Greatly appreciated. You might think it's nothing, but every ounce counts.
It does. Every little bit goes towards the cause for sure.
Yeah, and I do see that as such. It's something I'm investing.
Absolutely. Just to clarify, I know you're on Instagram. Are you on Facebook, Twitter? What platforms are you all on?
I'm also on Facebook. I usually don't accept too many friends requests. I actually used to have up to like 500 followers, and I got rid of like 400 during 2020. So,
Did you kind of
oh,
cold?
I was like, I just can't take it. Like, I'm seeing all this. Like, this is not edifying me in any way,
Yeah.
shape, or form. You haven't talked to me
Toxic.
in over 6 years. Yeah. So, I might create a group eventually on Facebook, but considering what I talk, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then I'm not on anything else like Twitter or whatnot. It's like it's hard enough
Okay.
remembering the passwords for what I got.
Yeah.
I am looking into doing a Substack. Just trying to get that
Hmm.
monetized as
That's a
well.
good idea. I see a lot of people doing Substack, just because my understanding is I guess it's a little more freedom maybe to post what you want. Is that your
For,
assessment?
for writing aspects, I'm told you can be a little bit more liberated, but it's also just
Hmm.
another way of generating money because I've already have a thousand posts that I've done, and I can elaborate and extrapolate on what I can't do within a 200 and something word count.
Yes.
And as people,
Yes.
I've had a few say they'd be willing to support through that, and I'm like, well, I'll take it any way, which way I
Right.
can.
Right. Yeah. You kind of got to go where the people want
All right,
to
now that
view
I
you.
do have it up. It's not exactly posting a lot just yet, but it's called just Mana Daily, plain no the just Mana Daily, for
.com.
Substack.
Oh,
Just
you
on
do have it
Substack,
up.
yeah.
Okay, Substack. I'll include that in the link as well because I like to include all the places because like you said, different people prefer different platforms
Right,
and
it's your own medium.
yeah, whatever. But I do hear you. It's sometimes hard to get on all these different places and manage all the things.
I need a
Yeah.
tech assistant, my friend.
Right,
I know
right.
my tech. Like somebody said, it's like a professor. Sometimes they're really good with what their research is and this stuff, but when it comes to the tech departments, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, and I'm like, I admit it. That's one of my flaws. I'm
Well,
not very good at the tech.
it's and I always say there's two hurdles to this game. One is figuring out what you want to talk about, and two is figuring out the tech and the all the platforms and stacking them up. And it's both of those
Agreed.
are formidable. you know.
Yes.
Awesome, Brandon. Well, it's been great chatting with you again and hashing out what's
Likewise.
going on in the world.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
for having me on again. I really love these conversations.
likewise.
We could frequently do it. I'd love it. But folks, you remember, Mark's he needs your guys' support just as much as I've been saying for myself. If he's going to do this more full time, you guys have to watch some of his other stuff. So just
Thank
throw that
you.
out for him. Yeah, because again, we like these conversations, but we need your guys' consistency.
Yeah. And the other thing that and we can talk offline about this, but doing, I've been dabbling with lives. Do you do lives at all? Like Instagram
I
or
tried and then it ran
did
out.
you?
I had no audio.
Oh, you did? Okay. Because what I was going to
So
propose, and we can again talk about this, but Instagram, I see lots of people doing Instagram live conversations, top and bottom screen, and those
yeah,
could be pretty interesting,
we could tinker
um,
around. Yeah, I'd be totally down.
just throw it out. That kind of a collab, so to speak, but in Instagram, because it could be like, I've often had this idea of doing like an interview series on Instagram that's unique to Instagram. Because the way I look at all these platforms is like, okay, they're you know they're channels, so to speak, and you can do whatever you want on your channel, different series. So we can talk about
Right.
that. So but it's got to be, always got to be easy and also interesting to the audience for sure
Oh,
too.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been awesome chatting with you, and we'll chat with you in the future.
All right. Talk to you
Thank,
later.
thanks, Brandon.